Hello, dear viewers. Support me by subscribing to my channel and share my video if you like it. And also, make sure you comment your thoughts. Now let's start the video. The next day arrived and Harry informed Natasha at breakfast that he would not be joining them for training that day. Natasha looked between him and Clint, who nodded slightly and said, "I suppose we can skip today. I'll come with." Then she looked at Sif. "I'm sorry, Sif. There's something personal we have to take care of. We'll have to go shopping tomorrow. Would you mind accompanying Bruce while we go take care of it?" "Of course not. I find Bruce's gentle company refreshing. So unlike the warriors of Asgard, it feels like I am conversing with a healer," Sif stated. "Well, technically, he is a doctor, and even though his field is science, he helped a lot of sick people on his travels," Harry stated. "Bruce, did you know Sep here is aware of the location of magical creatures in the 9 realms? So far I've confirmed Ashwinders and unicorns." "Really?" Bruce exclaimed excitedly. "We may have more to talk about than I thought," he said interestedly. He would be able to describe some of the creatures he wants and show her pictures. Who knew? He may even be able to use other creatures as replacements for potions' ingredients. "Indeed, but we use different names for them, so describing them will help. Why do you seek the whereabouts of these creatures?" Sif asked. "Harry has instructed me in the creation of potions, and I am trying to recreate ones that require magical creatures for their unique properties, though I will try not to harm the creatures to do so. We would someday need to capture some of them to set up a place where they can live freely and we can gather from them as needed," Bruce explained. "You do not wish them killed?" Sif asked. "Not necessarily. Some parts we may need will call for their lives, but we will ensure they don't suffer, and we won't threaten an entire species just for the sake of potions," Bruce assured her. "You are truly a kind man to consider such things. Back on Asgard, not many would stop from killing the prey just because they wanted a trophy," Sif said thoughtfully. Harry smiled at the blossoming friendship. Steve interrupted his thoughts. "Hey, Harry, mind if I use the room today? I'd like to try a few things." "No problem, Steve. I won't be gone all day, though, and I suspect we'll still use it for training later," Harry said. "That's fine. I liked the dojo. It's good exercise, and the instructors are just as good. I'll join you from now on, if that's okay," Steve asked. "Of course. The room is for the Avengers to use. I did make it so we could relax, but also for its usefulness as a training ground," Harry said. "Can you imagine going through another invasion scenario, but in controlled circumstances?" Natasha asked him. "That is a good idea. We could improve our efficiency and try different tactics on the same scenario and never have to worry about collateral damage. We could even run drills in pairs and find out who works best together, if the team needs to split up." Steve was getting into the idea of controlled emulations. If he had any say about it, the team would become an unstoppable force for good. "Have at it, Steve. The room is yours to experiment with," Harry said. "Thanks, Harry," Steve said as he got up to start clearing away dishes. Steve had decided that he would be the dishwasher, as Bruce did the cooking. He was the sort that believed in doing his part. Bruce wasn't complaining. Harry would have just used magic, but somehow felt Steve needed routine and left it up to him. When Clint, Natasha, and Harry were ready, they took the carpet, since Harry didn't know where they were going. Natasha could have told him, but she liked the carpet and decided to enjoy the trip. Clint's reaction to the carpet was refreshing. He didn't seem surprised at all, and didn't blink once it appeared. He simply got on and sat down at the front. When Harry and Natasha sat down, looking in one direction, he'd point out their rear. Clint was impressed with the speed they were traveling at. They'd be home soon, and he couldn't wait to see his wife and children and their reaction to the carpet. Maybe he could get Harry to give them a ride. It seemed safe enough. They arrived soon, and Clint had him land in the backyard where the children were playing, and Laura were watching them. The moment they appeared, Laura called her children to her, but the moment she saw who was on the carpet, she let them go as they squealed and ran to the obvious magic means of conveyance. Clint got up when they almost landed and jumped off, greeting his children with hugs. When his wife approached, he kissed her with a smile on his face. "I've brought company," he informed her. She just smiled at him. I can see that. The children had run onto the carpet to greet their Aunt Nat, their dirty shoes dragging mud onto the carpet. "Cooper, Lila, get off the carpet with those muddy shoes," she said as she approached. Harry got up and said, "Hi, I'm Harry. Nice to meet you, don't worry about the mud. He waved his hand, and the carpet was pristine again, along with the children's shoes. My fault for landing in the backyard with children at play. He smiled tolerantly. Harry likes children, Natasha informed her. Hey Laura, how are things? Hi Natasha, things are fine here. I just didn't expect to see anyone today. Anything I should be worried about? She asked, a hint of a frown on her face. No. Actually, I've made a new friend who has decided I don't get to see my wife nearly often enough. He's going to arrange it so I can see you more often and add some protections, Clint said. Maybe we should get that out of the way, Harry said. Everybody on the carpet, please? I need you to show me the boundaries of your property. The children were still on the carpet, with Nat, and she sat down, telling them to do the same. Laura and Clint sat on the other end. They rose up, and Harry asked Clint to point them at the edges. It was a farm after all. They took it slowly so that the children could enjoy the trip. When they reached one corner, Harry conjured an arrow, concentrated some magic into it as a beacon, and asked Clint to put it in as exact a corner as he could. Clint took the arrow and shot it into the ground. They did this process 3 more times, and then they went to the center of the property. Then Harry paused. What is the address of this property? I need it for the protections. Clint told him, and Harry continued. He first made the property unplottable, and then he cast the Fidelius. He flew them off of Clint's property and turned around. Clint, where do you stay? I don't know. Do I have a house? He asked. There was something bothering him. He just didn't know what. Harry pointed next to them and asked, what do you see there? A farm belonging to some friendly people I've met once or twice, Clint replied. Still something was bothering him. Harry whispered the secret into Clint's ear, and his farm slid into view, the surrounding farmland moving out of the way for it. Harry, you son, he stopped himself, looking at his children. That wasn't very nice, he ground out. And how would you have believed me when I told you the entire world now sees this stretch of land like you did? Harry asked. For that matter, try to tell someone about where you live. He turned to Laura and said, Laura, we live in... I can't say it. Why can't I say it? Clint panicked slightly. Harry then said where they lived aloud, and Laura looked around, a look of relief crossing her face. Now you can say it, because everyone here knows the secret. That's the beauty of it. Nobody can reveal the secret except the secret keeper. Me in this case, it has to be a magical, unfortunately. At this, Harry took a pad out of his pocket and wrote the secret down. You can show someone this and reveal the secret that way. Though, I suggest you keep it in your bag. Harry tore the note off and gave it to Clint. Congratulations, your family now lives in one of the most secret locations on the planet. A secret known only to those here. Clint was suddenly smiling, realizing what Harry had actually done for him. Thank you, he said sincerely. Yes, thank you, Laura said, standing up and giving Harry a hug. It's nothing. I always look out for my friends. Harry said modestly, This is not nothing, Harry. You just made a huge difference in their lives. Clint can now rest easily knowing his family is safe, no matter what. Natasha said, Oh, that reminds me. If you have a wedding band, you can now wear it. Nobody can get the location of your family out of you. Not even mind readers, and I can turn the ring into your way home. Harry said as he flew them back to Clint's house. Clint took a chain from around his neck and removed a wedding band from it, handing it to Harry as they landed. Harry walked up to their porch and concentrated for a minute with the band in his hand. When he was done, he handed it to Clint. I added something extra. Clint put it on, and the band went invisible. That's cool. He took it off, and it became visible again. Really cool. Go stand by the carpet and say no place like home, Harry instructed. Clint did so and disappeared to instantly appear where Harry had been while he made the portkey. Back to base takes you to your starting location, Harry explained. Clint didn't need to, but tested it anyway. He reappeared by the carpet. Daddy, you disappeared, Lila exclaimed excitedly, running up to her dad. Yes, I did, honey. Aunt Nat's new boyfriend is a real-life magic wizard. It's his carpet we rode and his magic that will let me see you guys more, Clint explained. Really? Can he make rabbits appear from a hat? She asked disbelievingly. He probably could, but chances are he'd rather turn the hat into a dragon. He then leaned to her ear and whispered, If you ask him real nice, he might show you a unicorn. The little girl's eyes bulged and she turned and ran to the wizard. Harry just scowled until the happy little girl asked if he could show her a unicorn. He couldn't resist. He turned a stone into a miniature replica of a unicorn and animated it so that it could run around with a squealing little girl running after it. The boy wasn't much older, and soon he was running after his own dragon, who was flying low to the ground and not very quickly, breathing cold fire that couldn't burn. That was very nice of you, but now they won't want to see me anymore, Natasha pouted. What can I say? Children love magic, and I like children. If you want to blame someone, blame Clint. He set them up to it. Harry shrugged with a half-smile. Clint just looked at Harry like he had betrayed him. When Natasha's eyes settled on him, Natasha loved the kids. Come on, Nat. They love their aunt. Chances are they will love you more now that you brought the magic. Clint tried to plead. Refer to me as the magic again, and you'll wake up having forgotten how to use your right hand tomorrow. Harry threatened. Laura just laughed. You're being ridiculous, Nat. The kids won't forget about you. We should actually thank Harry. The kids will sleep well tonight, she said, as she watched the kids running and playing with the animated dolls. The creatures don't need feeding or anything, right? And did that dragon just breathe fire? She suddenly looked slightly worried. They are animated, so no food. The fire is cold, so don't worry. It literally couldn't hurt a fly. I could set it up so they become active during the day and turn to stone at night, if you want, Harry asked. That would be nice, thanks. Laura smiled at him. They stayed for lunch at Laura's insistence. Despite her worry, the children still vied for Natasha's attention, though now with magical dolls in hand or following them around. She introduced Harry as Uncle Harry, and they promised not to tell anyone about his magic, serious looks on their little faces. When lunch was over, Harry conjured them some ice cream. You do realize this will just give them more energy for me to handle later, right? Laura asked with humor. Natasha handled this one. Harry conjured the ice cream. It will disappear in a while, and they won't get any sustenance from it. That's useful. Wish I had more of that around, Laura said. I'll come visit again sometime with Clint. Now that it's an easy trip for him, I'm sure he'll be here more often than not. The rest of the time, he'll be training with the other Avengers at my house or working, Harry said. Wait, does that mean you're Ghost? Laura suddenly realized. Harry put his finger to his lips and looked at the children. I don't like that spread around. Let's keep that between us. For their own dessert, Harry made them some butterbeer. Can I try some? Cooper, the boy asked when he saw the drinks. I'm sorry, kiddo. This is for us older people. Clint said, ruffling the kid's hair. It was technically water, but he didn't want his children developing a taste for alcoholic drinks. The boy pouted, but noticed his ice cream bowl suddenly had an extra scoop and fell into it again. You're good with children, Laura said. Speaking of which, do you intend to make an honest woman of our Nat? She smiled. Not you two. Why is everyone pressing for that? We only just went official. Harry complained. I'm not talking about right now, but you do seem closer than I've seen Nat to anyone. I do have to look out for my closest friend, Laura said. We are still exploring the possibilities, Natasha said. But between you and me, Harry told the Queen of Asgard, Frigga, that if she continued pushing him, he'd stop going to Asgard until we're engaged. She said with a stage whisper and a smile on her face. If you start pushing me too, I'm cutting you off. Harry made a hollow threat. He knew she was joking. Oh, please, like you could resist me, Natasha scoffed, punching his arm. If I become serious about it, you'll know. There is no rush. We have time on our side. She finished. Yes, we do, Harry smiled in satisfaction. It's good to see you so happy, Laura said, then looked at her children and some sadness crossed her face. Don't worry about that anymore. It's been resolved, Natasha said mysteriously, having caught the look. Really? Laura asked, shock in her face. Really? Natasha smiled at her. The next moment, Laura was around the table, and Natasha was caught in a deathlock of a hug. Clint just sat there, smiling. Then he looked at Harry. Don't look at me. She's got Frigga to thank for that, Harry said. And who introduced them? Clint asked. Well, I may have had a hand in that, but the rest was all up to her, Harry said honestly. He's being modest, Natasha said. He basically told Frigga that we're going somewhere, and she decided to open up some possibilities. She was suddenly in another hug. This one from Clint. I'm really happy for you, Nat. Harry was in a hug as well. You take good care of her. You hear? Laura said, as a couple of tears fell on Harry's shoulder. I intend to, Harry said again, just as he had Clint. Natasha had some good friends here, and he liked them, especially the little ones. He'd have to do something special for them. He'd think about it. Maybe a swimming pool or a magical water park in the backyard. Children liked those. Hell, Harry liked those. He'd have to put some water slides in at his pool, Hulk size. We'll have to invite you to lunch sometime. You and the kids can meet the Avengers and be back home by dinner. Natasha said, now that Clint has an instant form of travel between two of the most secure places imaginable, you can safely travel between them. You should otherwise be able to carry on as normal, just don't expect your neighbors to be too accommodating should you need to borrow a cup of sugar. Harry chuckled, we'll also have to set you up with a PMG soon, as the power company will soon realize power is going somewhere and they have no reference to it. PMG? Clint asked. Tony and I invented a form of free electricity, the Perpetual Motion Generator, or PMG. Runs on magic, without causing magical interference, so your electronics will be safe. Harry said. What about the Fidelius? Natasha asked. It doesn't permeate as much as surround. That's why I can take people to our house without them knowing the secret. Harry answered, it's useful. It will also take us completely off the grid, Laura said. Besides gas and internet anyway. Clint and I will go shopping tomorrow, while Seth and Natasha are out. We can replace anything that runs on gas with electricity. I'll stop by Tony this evening and see if he's gotten anywhere with the PMGs. Otherwise, we'll make you one. Come tomorrow night, we'll have everything sorted, but the internet, you'll have to stick to cellular until we can come up with something else. My auction is coming up soon, so I have to start looking for an island to purchase, Harry said. You've been busy, Natasha said to him. Why do you think I needed the time and arranged what I did for the director? Harry said. They were soon ready to leave and said goodbye to the kids, who hugged both Aunt Nat and Uncle Harry. Clint was staying. He promised to be at the house after breakfast for training. Harry and Natasha apparated away. When they arrived back at the house, Harry and Natasha went in search of Bruce and Sif. They found them in Bruce's lab, going over some books on magical creatures. They were talking happily, Sif explaining where she had encountered one creature or another, many of which the books didn't have. Bruce was explaining to her how he theorized the way they lived their lives affected their magical properties in potions. Hi guys, how are things going? Harry asked. Greetings, Harry. Bruce has been explaining his theories on magical creatures and their influence on potions based on their habits and living conditions. It is most interesting. If his theories prove true, I should be able to procure, if not the exact creatures, at least something that lives in similar circumstances with similar properties. Sif said happily. Apparently she had decided to help Bruce with his projects. Sif has been helping narrow down some items we will need going forward. I can't wait to see what I can do when I receive some new ingredients, Bruce enthused. We may need to find a way to compensate her once she sets us up with enough creatures. If they work, her contribution would have proven incalculable. Bruce said, thinking of all the people they could help. I would do it for my friends because I want to help, friend Bruce. You don't need to think of payment, Sif said. You would be wrong, Harry said. If you can do what Bruce thinks, you'll be contributing to us saving thousands, if not millions of lives. That is worth a lot to us. I'll think about it in the meanwhile, Harry said. The only problem would be getting to the other realms. I have a theory on that, but I'll need to test it first. We can do that tomorrow. Right now, I'm going to Tony's. We need to set something up for Clint, Harry said. I'll go to the dojo. I don't feel right without my exercise. Natasha smiled at Harry. I understand. I'll see you guys later. Harry waved goodbye to Bruce and Sif. He was already thinking of how to solve their world travel issue. He gave Natasha a quick peck on the cheek and then apparated away to Tony's balcony. Good evening, Harry, Jarvis said. Hi, Jarvis. How are things here? Harry asked. Well, thank you. Tony is in his lab. He has been informed of your arrival and asked that you join him, Jarvis replied. Thanks, Harry said, and moved through the house. When he got to the lab, Tony called. Come look, I think I got the self-destructing rune cluster all set up. Harry hurried over and looked at the screen where Tony was inscribing runes with a laser inside what looked like a bottle. What is this? Harry asked. A vacuum-sealed unit. I kept on getting failures in simulation when the scheme would self-destruct before I could put the units together. So I decided to go with a rune scheme that would activate when exposed to air, Tony explained. As Harry watched, the laser head stopped moving and a bar of metal started glowing with the word test. The head then extracted itself from the bottle, and a mechanical arm sealed the bottle with a cap of some sort. The word could still be seen glowing inside. "Is that right, so far?" Harry asked. "Not done yet," Tony said. On the screen, the room the bottle was in recompressed, and what looked like gas filled in the chamber before it settled. Recompressed. Now, if my plan is correct, we need to simply remove the cap and the light runes will be destroyed. Tony said. The same arm that placed it removed the cap, and a second later, there was a flash, and the light went out. "Yes," Tony crowed. He typed in another command, and the disc was removed from the bottle and placed under a microscope. The image appeared of a scorched surface with not one line visible. Perfect. We now have a way to manufacture PMGs without the risk of our method getting out. "That's awesome, Tony." "Well done," Harry said. "Yes, congratulations on your success, sir," Jarvis intoned. "I couldn't have done it without science," Tony said, pointing at Harry. "I told you there was place for science in magic." "And I never argued, as you'll recall," Harry said. "In fact, I asked Bruce to start trying to investigate if potions brewing methods could be upgraded with science on that first day even." "But this is runes," Tony said triumphantly. "I'm pioneering the path for future advancements, and I don't have any competition." "Well, except maybe for you, but that won't be for much longer. I'm on my second mastery book already." "Really? That's truly impressive, and puts you far ahead of me," Harry said, shocked. Just how much of a genius was Tony? Really? How long would it take for you to construct our first PMG if you started making one now? Harry asked. Tony grinned. "I'll just need you to power the runes inside the vacuum." Tony, I can't survive in a vacuum," Harry said disappointedly. "Not a problem. I was able to procure some adamantite at expense, I might add, and made a wire with a mechanical arm. All you need to do is power the first generator's runes, and then we've got a magic generator, ready to power future runes, including ones in a vacuum." Tony was really excited. He had modified some runes to extract the magical power buildup and direct it. Harry just needed to power the generator the first time. After that, it could be switched off with the runes still active for when he needed it again. 10 minutes later, the world's first magic generator was up and running. Jarvis was in charge of manufacturing the PMG, so Harry and Tony went for a drink. So Sif and Bruce are planning on getting ingredients. Pepper is setting up the auction for next week. We're starting up PMG production and producing fire whiskey, and you're making friends with monarchs of foreign worlds. Does that about sum it up? Tony asked. More or less. I still need that island and set up a couple of greenhouses for crops. I'll need to set up environments that the creatures would like living in. Then there's 1 or 2 more projects I'm currently working on. Harry said offhandedly. Tell me about these projects, Tony said, intrigued. One thing I think you can start on if you want is something that condenses water out of the air like I do. Water shortage is also a problem a lot of rural settlements suffer from. That is a useful idea. I'll look into it. Anything else? Tony asked, eyes gleaming with interest. Just then, Jarvis informed them that the first of the Stark Industries and Potter Innovations perpetual motion generators was completed and tested as working optimally. Next time, maybe I'll tell you more. I'm almost late for dinner. I also need that generator for a friend. I'd tell you, but I'm keeping someone's secret and off the grid for a friend. Harry apologized. That's fine, I've got enough I'm working on anyway. I'm thinking of starting to produce flying cars, but haven't figured out the runes for it yet, Tony said. Harry just smirked and said, My friend's dad once enchanted their Ford Anglia to fly and turn invisible. We took it to school once. We got in a lot of trouble. A Ford? Why not something cool at least, like a DeLorean? Tony asked. They were not a rich family, and all magical. Arthur had a thing for all things mundane. He had a plug collection he was really proud of, Harry said, reminiscing fondly. Wizards, Tony scoffed. Okay, I'm going. Congratulations again on the success. Thanks for the PMG, Harry said and apparated away. Once he was back home with the PMG, he stashed it in his room before going for dinner. He just made it. Everyone was sitting and about to tuck in when Harry showed up. Sorry for being late, Harry said as he walked in. Bruce was about to get up to go dish up for Harry when he said, Sit down, Bruce. I'm not an invalid. He quickly dished up and came back to sit with the rest. And were you able to make one? Natasha asked. Yes, actually, I've got one upstairs. PMG production will be starting from today. We were able to secure our interests as well, so we can start selling them and providing power to people in need. Harry said proudly, "That is amazing news, Harry." Bruce enthused, thinking of all the suffering that can be avoided once power issues becomes a thing of the past. I've also asked Tony to start on a way to condense water from the air. That will probably take some time, but will be infinitely more useful, Harry said. You really are intent on saving as many people as possible, aren't you? Sif asked, wonder in her eyes. This man was a true hero, unlike any other she had heard of. She would need to step up her game if she wanted to be part of it. Bruce had offered her part of something that could be equally as great. Steve just listened as his teammates talked. It sounded like they were trying to eliminate one need after the other. He knew that's not where his strengths lay, but he was proud to be associated with them. These were the real heroes, the ones that saved lives every day. Maybe he'd see if they could use him somewhere too. The next day, Harry joined Natasha, Sif, Clint, Steve, and Bruce in the dojo. Once done, they showered and Harry disillusioned them before apparating to a nearby mall. Harry took Clint to get the required kitchenware and purchased one better than Clint asked at every turn. Clint would be rerouting the power for the house. They went back home, picked up the PMG, and apparated to Clint's house. Harry helped him install the hardware and removed the old stuff, and then left him there with the rest. It was only fair. Next, Harry had to test his theory, but didn't want people there to worry about him, so he was glad Natasha was out. He created a port key to Asgard. This was a dangerous proposition. He had a separate return port key just in case, but if the trip took too long, there would be a moment where he was in space after tossing the port key before he could activate the other to take him home. So he donned his armor, added every protection he could, layered multiple bubblehead charms over his head, till it went over his shoulders, and prayed for success. Checking everything twice, he activated the port key. There was the normal rush as the port key took him up, which gradually became less bumpy until he reached space, and then, in an instant, the rush was back, and he was descending to where Heimdall stood, waiting. Congratulations, Harry Potter, on your first intergalactic port key. Heimdall smiled at him. Harry took a moment to dispel his protections. Intergalactic? Harry exclaimed. Yes, I followed your travel carefully. It took but a moment when you reached the void, where there was no resistance. It seems your magic compensated for much too, Heimdall said. I suspect you won't need protection, as the magic of the form of travel involved protected you. That's so cool, Harry said. Let me try this. Oh, and hello and bye. Goodbye, Harry Potter, Heimdall said. Harry activated the return port key without his protections and felt much the same as he did on the first. Perhaps a bit more in the beginning and end, where he left and entered the atmosphere, but he had no trouble breathing and never felt the cold of the void. Cool, he thought to himself. Having had such a huge success, Harry went back to the mall. He found Natasha and Sif in the food court with many bags around them. Sif was wearing skinny jeans and a tank top. Natasha had added some mascara to her eyes, but besides that, she didn't need makeup. Her natural beauty was such that makeup would only detract from it. They seemed to be eating some burgers and fries. Sif was enjoying it very much. Harry joined them and shrunk their purchases for Natasha to keep in her bag after a quick notice me not. They had apparently not finished, so Harry begged off, having been through the hell that was shopping with women. He was tempted to stay when Natasha alluded to lingerie, but decided to have her keep her surprises and went to a bookstore. He bought everything that showed how to bake and cook on a stove and in an oven, from foreign delicacies to mac and cheese. Then he went and purchased every kitchen convenience that did not run on power. He then looked up local spice merchants, apparated and purchased bags of every spice imaginable. Lastly, he went looking for seeds of every herb and spice he could lay his hands on. Frigga would not be disappointed. Still, Harry thought it was not enough for what she had done for Natasha. So he placed 2 orders of every type of food at restaurants all over the city, traveled there and picked them up, drinks and sauces included. Everything was shrunk and preserved in stasis, so that it would come out fresh, as if just cooked. When that was done, he felt he had done enough for today. He was shocked to note the time. He picked up his phone and called Natasha. Hi, Harry, she answered. Everything okay? Yeah, I was just wondering when and where I should come pick you up, Harry said. We're already home. We took the Avengers port key, she replied. Oh, okay, Harry said. I'm heading home now. See you now. He hung up the phone and apparated home. "Hi," Harry said when he saw her. "I was running around doing some stuff for a friend when I realized the time." "When did you get home?" "About an hour ago." "Are you arranging a surprise again?" Natasha asked. "For Frigga, yes," he said. "Don't spoil it, Heimdall," he then suddenly said, looking at the ceiling. "If it's a good surprise, I doubt he'd tell her." Natasha laughed. "It is, but let's have dinner first, and then we're going to Asgard," Harry said. During dinner, Harry asks if "We're going to visit Asgard tonight if you're interested." She thought about it and shook her head. "No, thank you. Bruce is going to teach me how to make a potion to calm nerves." Harry smiled. That was proceeding rather nicely, he thought. "That's fine. I just thought I'd ask." "Thank you. Send King Odin and Queen Frigga my regards," she asked. "Will do," Harry said. And that was that. She continued her discussion with Bruce about ingredients and cutting methods. Clint was at his home, really enjoying the convenience of his ring portkey. Steve was asking questions here and there, seeming interested in Bruce and Sif's discussions. Natasha and he were talking about purchases, and he informed her about his gifts to Freka. He asked her to deliver them as the reason for the gifts was as thank you for what Freka had done for her. After dinner, Natasha went to don the armor Harry had given her for the purpose. Harry took her to his room and donned his own. He set up the return portkey and then said, "To Asgard." The portkey activated and soon they were standing next to Heimdall. "Did you just portkey us to Asgard?" Natasha asked, incredulous. "Yes, I did. Tried it out earlier today and it worked fine," Harry said with a smile. "Wasn't that dangerous?" She scowled at him. "I had a backup plan and redundant protections in place." "Ask Heimdall," Harry said. "I know better than to step into this conversation," Heimdall said, also smiling. But Harry could see a glimmer of humor in his features. "Oh, you're so becoming a goat one of these days," Harry said to Heimdall. He then turned to Natasha. "I promise I was as safe as possible. I just needed to know if it would work. Now we can travel to the other worlds with Sif's memories of them." With the Bifrost still not up, it was our only chance. She stood there looking at him angrily. "I'm not happy about this, but I know it is important to you. Just promise me you won't do stuff like that without informing me in the future. I'm your girlfriend, not your babysitter. I understand risks are sometimes needed, but if we could discuss contingencies, I might think of something you did not, like wearing a spacesuit in case you get stuck in space," she demanded. "We can get those, you know." "You have a good point." "Sorry," he said, with downcast eyes. "Don't be sorry. Be careful," she instructed. She then turned to Heimdall. "Are the king and queen ready to receive us?" "You may go to the Citadel. Someone will be waiting to take you to them." I informed them it would be a private discussion and who would be in attendance, but nothing else. Heimdall said, "Thank you," Harry said, and picked Natasha up before flying to the Citadel. A servant was waiting for them and led them to a private council table. They were announced and entered. "Greetings, Harry Potter and Natasha Romanoff. Welcome back to Asgard," King Odin said. "Greetings," they intoned back. "We were informed that you have a private matter to discuss," Odin said. "You have my ear and that of my queen." "Thank you, King Odin," Natasha said. "We are here to thank you for the kindness you showed me when I first visited Queen Frigga. For giving my future infinite more possibilities and hope, we present you with these humble gifts." Harry took out his pouch and waved his hand. First, the books were presented. "These are the books you requested on making dishes from Midgard," Harry said. He waved his hand again, and out flew the bags of spices. "These are all the dried herbs and spices we acquired for you." Again he waved his hand, and out came the bags of seeds. "These are seeds for fresh herbs and spices that you can plant and grow." One last time, he waved his hand, and hundreds of dishes flew out and unshrunk themselves. "These are but some of the foods I acquired and put in stasis for you. There are 2 of each, so that you and the king may enjoy them at your leisure." Harry finished his presentation. The long table was stacked. "This is a worthy gift. Too much, even." "Why do you give so much?" Frigga asked, standing up and looking at the plates of food covered with glass containers so she could see inside. "There is no price too high for a brighter future," Harry said solemnly. "You bring my queen much joy with your gifts and words, Harry." "I thank you," Odin said. "But why did you want this done in private? We know you do not seek favor or fame, which to my estimation means you deserve both." "I have 2 reasons, Majesty. First, This is a private matter between us and you. People would ask the reason, and it is not for everyone to know. Secondly, Volstagg, Harry finished with a smile. Odin actually laughed. Indeed, you speak with your customary wisdom and wit. For your gifts you will receive no reward, but for your candor and the happiness you brought to my queen, I, King Odin Borson of Asgard, recognize you, Harry Potter and Natasha Romanoff, as lord and lady in my realm. There will be a banquet in your honor 1 week hence, and you will sit by our side so that those who come may know your importance to the crown. Odin said in his royal voice, Then, do show up a bit early though, as a lord and lady must be dressed as such, and I suspect my queen will want to help with that. He finished with a bit of a smile. Harry was having a nightmare. He knew it, yet he couldn't escape it. Hermione had been taken the previous day. Knowing how the enemy worked, he had little to no time. He had been frantically looking for any traces since he heard, ignoring orders and simply moving. He knew what to expect if he took too long. He had taken too long already. People had spotted him all over the country that day, breaking indoors and interrogating people. Then he found a trace. The possible lead through word of mouth. He had no way of knowing where it came from at this point. But he didn't care. He appeared in a graveyard. Ahead of him there was a person lying under a gravestone, reaching out to him for help, and he ran to them, but just couldn't reach. Harry, help me, she begged. Hermione, I'm coming. Hold on, he kept running, trying to reach her, but the distance just grew. Why won't you help me? She begged again. She was bleeding out from her many wounds, and he could see her losing strength. No! Hold on, I'm almost there. Harry begged her and tried harder, running faster, but he seemed unable to close the increasing distance. Harry, she screamed as she started fading out of view, the distance too great to see her anymore. Harry! It was another voice this time, closer, concerned. Harry finally awoke in the midst of a cold sweat, his body finally awakening with a start, heart racing. The urgency of a moment before still in his mind as he started to slowly realize he was sitting up in bed, Natasha looking at him with concerned eyes. It took him a minute, but he got his heart under control, his face still wet from sweat and tears. Nightmare? Natasha asked with sad eyes. She knew too well the consequences of a life like his. Hers. Yeah, Harry finally said. She leaned into him and hugged him. She had never seen him so vulnerable. He had been crying out in his sleep. She had tried to wake him, but he couldn't. Like he refused to leave the dream, trying to stay there to help whoever he was trying to save. Had she not spent the night, would he have told her? You were calling for Hermione? Was she a friend? She was one of my best friends. They took her one day and I looked everywhere and broke many laws looking for her. When I finally found her, she was already dead. The bastards had eviscerated her and left her manacled with magic suppressing cuffs. She must have suffered so much. Harry's haunted eyes was too much for Natasha. Harry was always smiling and fighting to make everyone else happy. Did nobody care that he was doing it despite his own pain and loss? I am going to go make some tea. Then you are going to tell me about Hermione. Good memories. Things you did for fun. And then you are going to tell me what she'd do if she ever saw you looking like you do now. Natasha finished firmly. Harry mutely nodded, his thoughts at least on something better. He smiled slightly. It had been a while since someone made him tea. These Americans generally preferred coffee. When Harry joined Natasha in the kitchen, he was already feeling a bit better. They went to the fire and Harry told her about the school days, when they studied and worked together. About her unwavering respect for authority and how many times that ended up working against them and when it would have helped. When Harry had convinced her not to go to those in charge. They talked for an hour, Natasha asking little questions for clarification that ended up becoming whole stories that made them both laugh. By the end, Harry was looking much better and they went back to bed, with Natasha throwing one arm over him, her head on his shoulder. She fell asleep to the thought that she needed to spend more time with him. If he was taking care of everyone else, who would take care of him otherwise? The next day, they joined the team for breakfast and then trained in the dojo for a while before Steve said they had other training to do. Harry asked Fox to go fetch Thor, having forgotten he could give Thor a porky. That would be useful for the future. He remembered something and added it to his internal list of projects. They called in Tony as well. Apparently, he had created a suit for training in a heavy magic environment, though it cut the Ark's life in half as it could not restore its energy with the runes blocking magic in place. He was still working on a solution to that. They walked through the door and found Manhattan under siege from the Chitauri again. Steve had them split up into different teams, and they went to work, Sif deciding to join them. 2 hours later, the team exited the room and went for lunch. Steve had prioritized focus on the enemy for this simulation. The cost to the civilians were much larger. That had been his point. Since they had the opportunity, he wanted to show them what their efforts in the last battle had meant and how many they had actually saved. Steve wanted to show them the consequences of acting differently in different situations. They would learn how their actions affected the bigger picture. That was his stage 1 of training, breaking bad habits. It was a military tactic that bonded teams together and improved a soldier's individual efficiency by focusing on their small part of the whole. After lunch, Harry presented Thor with his own Avengers portkey amulet. This will take you to and from Asgard. Don't abuse it. I don't want King Odin getting angry at me. This is a wondrous gift. My father will be well pleased to hear you have devised such an artifact, Lord Harry. Thor said enthusiastically, Lord Harry. Tony and Sif asked at the same time. Father would not tell me why, as it was a private affair, but apparently Harry and Natasha were made Lord and Lady for services to the crown. They will be honored and presented to Asgard in a grand feast in 6 days. Most were quite excited to hear of it. I heard many a maiden were planning on challenging for the right to be Harry's companion. Thor said with a smirk, This is never going to end, is it? Harry lamented, I'm afraid not, Harry. You are a rising star, and Asgard will long talk of your many deeds of strength and cunning. I hear rumors some have even decided that they would be your concubines to garner some of your attention. Thor laughed, knowing it would make Harry uncomfortable. Stop it, Prince Thor. You know Queen Frigga would never allow such things when Harry so clearly will not abide by it. Sif interjected, You cannot argue that he is one of the most desired men to come to Asgard in many centuries. Thor countered. You are not wrong, but that will not change who Harry is, Sif said. What if I accept a challenge and defeat my opponent? Natasha asked with a thoughtful look on her face. If you could defeat a strong opponent, many would be dissuaded from attempting so again. But you could not stand up to the strength of the Aesir, even though I know your skill is great, Thor said with a frown. Am I limited in my choice of weapon? Natasha asked. No, you may use any weapons of your choosing, but lethal force would not be allowed, Seth said. That will be fine. I'll sort something out for her, Harry said with a twinkle in his eye. You have something planned? Thor asked. I have an idea, Harry said with a smile. If Natasha needs the help, I suspect she can stand her ground, though, he said, smiling at her. For a second, Natasha had thought Harry was afraid she was too weak, until he finished his last statement. She smiled at him, knowing he meant it. I was thinking the same thing. Harry can always outfit me with his old armor, and that would add some protection. About that, Harry said, I can't use that armor anymore, and it fits you like it was made for you. You might as well keep it, Harry offered. That's very nice of you, Harry. I'll make sure you receive a proper reward later, Natasha said with a wink. Thor laughed and clapped him on the back. If you keep giving her gifts that are more precious than gold and jewelry, Mother will declare you betrothed by your next meeting, he said. Not all engagement gifts are rings, you know. Some men kill a mighty beast and present its head as an offer to wed, Sif explained. No, I have something special in mind for that, Harry said without thinking. At Natasha's incredulous look, he explained, It's a family heirloom, and tradition in my family. It's not like I'm planning for it. Harry quickly backtracked. Natasha sighed, and while she would admit to herself that she's falling for him rather fast, she was not ready for that yet. Good, was all she said. Okay, Harry said, breaking the tension of the moment. Thor, I request that you go tell Odin about the portkey. This might come in handy someday. Harry turned to Sif. Today you'll be sharing memories with me, and I'll attempt to go to the other realms using portkeys. This will allow me to plan future excursions with you to attain ingredients. That sounds like a dangerous plan, Natasha said. Let me make a couple of calls and see if I can get you a suit. She didn't wait for a response and simply left to go make her calls. Thor bid them farewell and said to Asgard, touching the amulet with his finger, and took his first solo trip back to Asgard. Only to reappear 30 seconds later. Just testing. This is really amazing. Then he left again. Harry, Sif, and Bruce, once he heard what they were doing, they couldn't keep him away. Took the better part of the day, looking at some of her memories of her exploring the worlds and investigating the wildlife. Harry and especially Bruce were excited that some of the creatures looked exactly like Harry remembered. Some of the ones they saw were strange to them both, and with the different names the Aesir attributed to the creatures, they would need to investigate them after they collected what they could recognize first. Harry had been making portkeys once he thought he could safely create them, but wouldn't go before Natasha was back. He knew she was right, and a spacesuit might just buy him the time he'd need to get himself to safety. The most recent memories were of Muspelheim. It was a fire world, lava and fire everywhere. He'd have to ensure his flame-freezing charm was up to scratch, and probably don his armor under the suit, just in case for that world. While they were waiting on Natasha, Harry had been working on his own carpet, as he'd prefer to stop using the one he'd brought from home. He was thinking of taking it to one of the other planets as a form of scouting. Normally he'd take his broom, but since Sif would be accompanying him on the trip, after they've confirmed success, he didn't want to give her the wrong impression by having them in such extremely close proximity. He had just finished it and was about to test it when Sif turned to him. "Is the new carpet ready?" she asked. "Yes. Do you want to take it out for a test drive?" he joked. "Sure," she answered. She walked onto the carpet and it took off. It functions on intent. That's useful. "Will you still have the wind issue?" Harry was still struck silent. "How is she doing this?" "I think the fact that you are able to operate it is what has him so quiet. He told us once that only magical people could operate them." Bruce explained with a smile. "Oh, well, that explains why then. Most people on Asgard has at least some form of magical ability." Sif shrugged. "So you're all magical?" Harry asked, incredulously. Why hadn't anyone told him? "Asgard is the home of the gods, Harry," Sif reminded him. "I myself am attuned to the earth. My magic is subtle, but I can usually feel movement and know where to find things of interest with a bit of concentration." "Right, of course." Harry finally remembered Odin's statement about enchantments. Obviously they knew more about magic than normal people. And yes, I was able to add the wind-shielding charm into the enchantments. He was still amazed. He'd have a whole other project to complete in the next couple of days. But now, thinking of it, he could combine the two. A smile lit his face. "That's awesome news." The next moment, Sif was out the window. "Do you think Sif thought your offer of a test drive was genuine?" Bruce asked. "I think so," Harry said. He quickly ran to the window and added some protection from sight. Didn't want the neighbors talking. Just then Natasha walked in carrying 2 large suitcases. "Got the suits," she said, heaving them onto a table. "That was quick," Bruce said. "Fury pulled some strings. I told him we're experimenting with something, and it was a safety precaution." "You'll want to report," Natasha said. "Excellent," Harry exclaimed. "Well, let me put one on and test the portkey." "I'm going to Alfheim." "We're going to Alfheim," Natasha said. "You're not going without me." It wasn't a question. "Is there even a point in me arguing with you?" Harry asked. "Not really," she deadpanned. "Where's Sif?" she asked. She took Harry's new toy out for a joyride. Bruce smiled. "New toy?" Natasha asked. "I made a new carpet. Turns out, Asgardians can use magic items," Harry said. "That will be useful," Natasha said. "That's what she said, kind of," Bruce said with a smile. Natasha put her suit on, showing Harry how to put his own on as she went. Just as they were both finished suiting up, Sif flew in through the window. "I'm sorry for taking so long. I got lost. I didn't know what your house looked like from up there. It's much larger on the inside. I should have warned you about that." "Sorry," Harry apologized, skipping over the fact that she wasn't really supposed to take the carpet in the first place. "Are you ready to go already?" Sif asked. "We are," Harry replied. "We also need to ensure all the locations work so that another project of mine can be started. We'll do that first so that we can ensure we don't need the suits again." "You'll be fine. I have the utmost faith in your capabilities, Harry," Sif said confidently. "Ready?" Harry asked Natasha. "Ready," she replied. Harry took up the portkeys he had made. He had conjured some keys with words on them and put them in a keychain. Alfheim, home of the elves. Vanaheim, home of the Vanir, a sister race to the Aesir. Muspelheim, the fire realm, home of the fire demons. Jotunheim, home of the ice giants. Nidavel, home of the dwarves. Asgard and Midgard. Harry had made those last 2 for emergency returns. Apparently Svartalfheim and Niflheim were off limits, and Sif hadn't gone there yet. Harry and Natasha took hold of the first one. Alfheim and Harry activated it with intent. He couldn't very well expect to activate them by voice in the vacuum of space if they got stuck. They were instantly on their way and arrived just as quickly. "We made it," Harry said, looking at the scene Sif had shown them. Natasha looked at a device that would measure oxygen and realized it was broken. They should have known. "We can't be certain the air here is compatible with our bodies," Natasha said. "I'm sure," Harry said. He started undoing his helm when Natasha stopped him. "No, you said you'd listen to me, and I'm telling you we need to be careful. I see the trees and grass too, but that doesn't mean they breathe what we do," Natasha warned. Okay, let me check first." Harry waved his hand and he got some information back. The spell said the air is safe to breath. "You have a spell for that?" Natasha asked dubiously. "Poisonous gas was a thing where I came from. You know, there's a spell that tells you if the air has been poisoned, it tells me it's safe," Harry responded honestly. Then he undid his helmet and breathed in the air. "Smells nice and clean. Lots of natural scents." Natasha undid her own helm and smelled the air. "It smells like a forest should." "Sorry for doubting you. It's not your fault, and you were just looking out for me," Harry said easily. "Next stop. Let's go," she sighed. They both put on their helms and followed the same procedure 4 more times. Each time they would check the air with magic first, and then take the helms off. Harry had to add flame-freezing charms before Muspelheim and heating charms before Jotunheim. Both of those two gave Harry warnings of lower-than-natural oxygen levels, but not enough to worry him. He did inform Natasha, though. He didn't want her to start worrying about him keeping secrets that might risk his life again. When they returned home, Sif and Bruce were waiting for them, with sudden relieved expressions on their faces. "We didn't know if there was a problem or not. You took longer than we expected," Bruce said. "The instruments to measure the air didn't survive the first trip, but Harry had a spell to check the air. We tested each time and confirmed all 5 realms were safe for humans. But the fire planet and the ice planet has lower oxygen levels, so any excursions there would require extra oxygen, just to be on the safe side," Natasha informed them as she started taking the suit off. Besides that, everything went off without a hitch. Harry smiled, also removing the suit. "That's great news. Are we heading out to go look at some creatures?" Bruce asked excitedly. "Give me an hour, I want to try something first." Harry replied. He went to the carpet and started weaving his magic. It took an hour and a half, but when he was done, he was very pleased with his work. He'd had to remove the original enchantments to add to them, but it was a success. "I give to you the first ever intergalactic magic carpet," Harry exclaimed. "What?" Sif and Bruce exclaimed simultaneously. "Get on, I'll show you." Harry was excited. If this worked, his plans for Axgard were one step closer to completion. When everyone was on, Harry told Sif to take control. She had the carpet lift up. "Now choose a realm and say to followed by the realm's name." Sif nodded and said, "To Alfheim." The port key activated, and a couple of moments later they were in Alfheim, exactly where Harry had been, except a couple of feet off the ground. "This is astounding," Sif said as she started flying them up and in a direction that only she knew where they were heading. "Does this mean we can now take the carpet out and go exploring?" Bruce said. "Yes, you can track down some of the creatures so long, but no capturing yet. I still need to set up places for them. I suggest you study their habitats, eating habits, and territories. We don't want to capture them and put them in places they cannot thrive. Besides that, if you find some unicorn hair stuck in trees or something, you're more than welcome to collect them," Harry finished with a big smile. "Harry, do you know what this means? We'll soon be able to start making potions that will change our world," Bruce said excitedly. He then turned to Sif and gave her a big hug. She froze as he said to her, "And it's all thanks to you. Without your memories, we would never be this close to curing cancer." She smiled softly then and hugged him back. "You're welcome. It was no chore. Harry did all the difficult work. She hadn't done it for herself. She only wanted to help." Harry smiled at her. "I like that smile you're wearing, Sif." She stiffened, realizing what he meant, then hugged Bruce harder. "Thank you," she murmured. They explored a bit after that. Bruce had actually blushed when he realized he had hugged her. When he had apologized, she just smiled at him. When they had spent an hour only finding tracks, they decided to go home. When they arrived, Bruce was soon going to his lab to get his laptop. He'd start making notes in it on the next excursion. He was planning a whole lot of things, and wanted to keep track while he made food. Harry took pity on him and said they'd order in. He and Sif were sitting at the table still talking about their next excursion. Steve had volunteered to go with them. The idea of going on a trip to a world where everything was as foreign to him as Bruce was somehow appealing to him. If he could be of use, he'd count that as a win. He had spent some time in the woods after all. The next team training was scheduled for a couple of days from then, so Harry started planning a major enchanting spree. He'd had some ideas he wanted to try. Harry spent the next couple of days doing just that, often accompanied by Natasha. Fawkes was off in a corner, observing. He was often giving Harry input that Harry found useful. Harry sometimes boggled at the ideas, then remembered Dumbledore had invented a couple of items himself in his time. Fawkes must have been discussing things with him as he went. The idea to enchant parts of an item that would end up having one function actually came from him. It was useful as Harry's plan had several required parts that needed to function together. As he went, he'd answer questions for Natasha, and she'd try and help with the layout and look of one of the items. It was for her after all. He was telling her about his plans this time. She was pleased and felt included, just like Harry wanted to include her. She actually went to go buy some of the items he needed. On other days, Harry would go enchant fire whiskey. He'd set up a room that would age the magical drink, and Tony had decided to round things out to 25 years by letting it stand another hour. He also had a barrel that he ended up letting stand for 50 hours. It would not be for the public, and he intended it for his own collection. It was also fully enchanted. The drink they were producing for the public was less so. No fire and a less euphoric reaction. Odin's Order was the first they filled and was already standing in their barrels. Harry had decided to age one of the barrels 25 years, the other 50 in the last 100. Hopefully they tasted as good. Harry didn't know. Of course that made Tony experiment with the aging as well, but he went for smaller increments of 5 up to 50. The older it was, the more they would sell for, but nobody would believe the recipe had been around for 100 years. Soon, the day of the auction arrived. It was a silent event and invitation only. Pepper had decided that they would invite only some press with gag orders, that they only release the articles after the auction was completed. If there was no press coverage, the buyers would think something suspect was going on. Harry understood her reasoning, but decided to stand by in his gear just in case. Natasha was there with him, watching on the security feed. She was in her new dragonhide outfit and gear. Tony had decided to go to the event as well, for added security, but then everyone knew he was Iron Man. Even with the event reasonably small, there were still more than 100 people representing large amounts of capital and their guests. People were mingling, talking about rumors about what would be displayed and drinking champagne. When the moment arrived, Pepper was standing at the front of the room where the items would be unveiled. She tapped on the mic and got everyone's attention. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The auction is about to begin. If you would please be seated." She waited for them to sit and started again. "Thank you. I would like to welcome all of you this evening. I'm sure you will all be pleased that you decided to attend. I'd like to confirm that all the items on display here tonight have all been authenticated by a world-renowned specialist." She nodded at a man in the front seat. He got up and turned so the people could see him. There was a murmur of approval, as he was instantly recognized by most of those there. "We recently found out that the artworks were discovered in an undisclosed location, having been securely stored and left for decades to be discovered again by a person who would like to remain anonymous. They had though them fakes, but decided to keep them hung on their walls to admire. When Tony and I met with the person, we recognized the works for what they were and had them authenticated, and here we are tonight." She smiled. "I'd like to remind you all that all sales are final. Do not bid if you cannot afford the item," she warned. "I'd like to start with this item." A covered painting was brought in. She uncovered the painting and there were gasps of astonishment. The bidding started at a higher number than Harry would have thought. He had been told it was one of the less valuable items. They were starting at the items of least value first, and it was already worth over 50 million, and climbing. The auction went on. Some people were on phones to their beneficiaries and bidding when told. Others had crestfallen looks when items were snatched up by more eager collectors. There were no interruptions until the final item had been sold. Suddenly 20 men with semi-automatic rifles ran in with combat gear and wearing balaclavas over their heads. Harry looked at Natasha, who nodded. They both then disappeared, Natasha with the words, "Widow going stealth." The men were pointing guns directly at Tony, and one of them spoke up. You so much as twitch a finger and a bullet goes in your head, and then the pretty girlfriends. He moved his gun to point at Pepper. She didn't even look scared, probably because Harry had added more protective spells to her than his own armor. He had assured her she could survive anything short of a rocket launcher, and she had complete faith in him. People, please be calm, so this matter can be resolved without violence, Pepper said calmly. Shut up. Who told you that you could speak? The same man demanded. Rather than antagonize the man into killing one of the guests, Pepper decided to keep her mouth shut. Meanwhile, unnoticed by anyone, Harry and Natasha were moving through the men with guns and disabling the weapons either by waving a hand or a slight touch from Natasha's new combat glove. When it could be seen, it looked like a glove with a bracer over the knuckles. Each finger was a different color for their different functions. Natasha had learned their functions well. Nobody noticed, as their weapons were disabled, all their moving parts locked into immobility. Then they started falling unconscious where they stood. One by one, they started dropping. The men, not knowing what was going on, tried firing their weapons at Tony, thinking he was somehow doing this. He just smirked at them. Issues with your guns? You should check your safeties. Some of them actually did. Idiots, Tony thought. One of the men wised up and took a hostage with a knife. The woman didn't even blink. She just twisted his arm and dropped him, taking his weapon and holding it at his throat. She had been one of those on a phone. Obviously, her boss only hired the best. The rest of the men kept dropping until only 2 remained. They dropped their weapons and held their hands up. Surrender. We surrender. Don't kill us too, please, one of them said. Ghost and Widow appeared in front of them, and Ghost said, Tell us who hired you. They both pointed into the crowd at a fat foreign man who was suddenly sweating. He stood up and bolted for the door. But before he got there, Ghost was standing in his way. He punched him out, stunning him for good measure. Then he and Widow put small discs on the fallen men, tapping them once and moving on after removing their weapons. A second later, the men disappeared to their holding cells at S.H.I.E.L.D. This was one of the items Harry had given to Fury for S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Ghost to use. Thin discs in an easily dispensable container at the hip. Fury had been warned that they might receive company. Then they vanished again. Sorry about that interruption. We did tell you that we had taken steps for security, and you were never at any risk. Mr. Stark asked some of his colleagues to be at the ready, just in case. Pepper said with a smile. Suddenly, there was a rousing applause. The people had just witnessed superheroes taking care of the bad guys. Some were still shaken, but all were grateful and impressed. Pepper's calm demeanor had also been impressed on them that she was in full control at all times. There will be a short break while we confirm your funds have been cleared, and then we'll arrange the items for transport to their destinations. Please feel free to help yourself to the finger sandwiches and drinks. Pepper finished before turning off her mic. Tony still stood there with a smile on his face, very proud of her. The reporters were on their phones instantly as all of them tried to get the scoop on the other. The end of which was an impromptu press gathering at the doors when the people finally exited the building. Neither Pepper nor the Avengers could hope for better press coverage as billionaires and their guests sang their praises. Nearly every channel had something to say. The artworks were also mentioned in passing. Tony knew not to leak the footage again, tempted though he was. When Harry and Natasha got home, they went directly to Harry's room and Natasha's armor disappeared off her, leaving her in what she had worn before, donning it. It was a nifty piece of enchantment, which Harry thought might come in handy. This way she'd never be caught without her armor or weapons. He did something similar for himself, but hers was tied to a bracelet that would become her enchanted glove, blood tied to her, of course. Harry helped her out of those clothes, and then they did not go to sleep. The day of the grand feast was the next day, and Harry decided to follow Odin's advice. He and Natasha showed up in the afternoon so that they could meet with Frigga to be robed. As they appeared by Heimdall, more out of habit than anything, they were informed that they had rooms in the Citadel now. As a lord and lady, they had been assigned them and been given special permission to arrive there from now on. But then when will we see you? Harry asked. You're always here at the Bifrost, he said. You could always give me the mirror you have in your pocket, which you intended to give me anyway. Then you can see me whenever you see fit. Heimdall smiled at him. Why do you spoil my fun? We know you know, but can't you at least act surprised? Harry asked in a pained voice as he handed Heimdall's gift to him. What would be the point? We both would know that I was acting. Heimdall replied, this time with a smirk. He liked the wizard. He was fun to have around. It's called having manners, Harry huffed. Go, the queen is awaiting you in her chambers. A servant will see you to her from the citadel's door, Heimdall said. And Harry, thank you for the mirror. It will be most useful to me, especially with what you bring today. You're welcome, Harry said, feeling slightly better. One day he'd find a way to hide from that all-seeing eye, and then he'd surprise him. They were soon at the Citadel. Harry still preferred to fly there. He enjoyed the flight. The fact that he was holding Natasha in his arms didn't have a thing to do with it. She didn't seem to mind either. Frigga welcomed them with open arms, and soon they were being led to a room with curtains for privacy, bundles in their hands. Harry was disappointed to note that he was presented with stately robes in pure white. When he came out, he asked, "Why am I wearing white robes? You are expected to dress as a noble lord. Our people expect you to look wise and stately for your position as counsel too," Frigga replied. "I think it looks good on you." Harry moved his hand over his face, and as he finished he had a lot of wrinkles and white hair, and a 2-foot-long beard. His eyebrows were long as well, giving him the appearance of a really old man. "Would this not suit the role better?" Harry asked in an old man's voice. Natasha stuck her head out. "It might actually suit the role better, but I don't think I'd match up with you well if you look that old." Her head then disappeared back into her dressing room. "Natasha is right, but if the outfit does not suit you, we can try something else." Frigga contemplated. She went back to the clothes neatly folded around the sides of the room in bundles, and chose something else. "Try these on, please," as she gave him the next set. Harry just sighed and tried on the next bunch of clothes. These were less stately and more like the courtiers Harry had seen around, in all white again. It didn't really suit him. When he came out to be inspected, Natasha stuck her head out again for a moment. "That looks better, but not really you either," she said. Harry knew this would carry on forever if he didn't step in. He moved his hand and transfigured the outfit into something he knew better. Suddenly, he was suited in dress robes, like the ones he wore to Wizengamot meetings, though still in white with a light gray vest and a silver bow tie. "How would this do?" Harry asked. "That is an unfamiliar style to me, but it does look quite good on you," Frigga complimented. Natasha once again stuck her head out. "Oh, I like that. Did you just make those?" she asked. "It's the formal attire for my world. I'd wear something similar for state meetings," though wizards had a really strange sense of style and would have everything in strange contrasting colors like lime green and purple. Harry said with a chuckle. "You should wear that then." Frigga said with finality, "It will set you aside and looks quite fetching." "I agree," Natasha said appreciatively, and then disappeared into her curtained-off area again. "Why are you taking so long?" Harry asked. "I'm having trouble with this corset," she replied. "Oh, I'm so sorry, my dear. Let me come help you," Frigga said as she moved into the changing room. A couple of minutes later, Natasha came out, also dressed in white. Harry's mouth hung open. She was gorgeous. The dress was like one he'd seen on the covers of fantasy novels. She looked like a princess. "You look fantastic," he whispered. "That's good." For the effort it took to get into, Natasha smiled at him. She then turned to Frigga. "This isn't some attempt to get us to go to a surprise wedding, is it?" she asked with a raised eyebrow. "Why would you think that?" Frigga asked with a small smile. "Brides tend to wear only white on their wedding day," Natasha replied. Originally, it was meant to signify their purity, but tradition changed with the times, so purity is no longer really required. "That is good. While maidenhood is appreciated, I find that bonding pairs sometimes prefer to explore the prowess of their counterpart in the bedroom before they decide to enter wedlock." Frigga stated easily, "I do hope you two are entertaining the possibility of using the gift I gave you at some later stage," she asked, with her own raised eyebrow. "How are things in the bedroom, my dear?" Natasha actually blushed, not having expected something like that from Frigga, Queen of Asgard. She stammered, "Do not look at me like you don't know my aspects. I was aware of your bond, after all." Frigga smiled at her. Natasha composed herself. "Harry is a man among men. He is also quite gifted," is all she said, leaving out what gifts she was referring to. Frigga just smiled a little more. "I shall endeavor to keep that to myself. We don't want any more maidens vying for your beloved's attention." Harry had since turned scarlet. "Could we drop this subject?" he begged. "Why, Harry, are you blushing?" Natasha asked, a smile on her face at his discomfort. "Don't enjoy it so much, or should I remind you the Queen had you blushing no less than a minute ago yourself?" Harry smirked at her. "I don't remember that." Natasha scoffed, then turned to the Queen. I'm thinking we need to discuss what might happen this evening." And with that, the subject was changed. They were escorted to the throne chamber by the queen herself and had seats set a little bit away from the king and queen on the dais. Harry had greeted the king with a bow, and Odin had gotten up and shook Harry's hand heartily. "You may call me Odin. The crown considers you friend." "Thank you, Odin," Harry said sincerely. "Where are the people?" he asked, looking around the great empty hall. "We shall take our seats, and then the horde will descend upon us to greet you as a lord and lady of Asgard." Odin replied, pointing for him to take his seat. When they were seated, an announcement was made, and throngs of people started entering, starting with Thor. They would stop and bow to first their monarchs, and then the new lord and lady, before moving into the hall to their places, Thor taking his customary place by Odin's side. There were a lot of people, and Harry wondered if all of Asgard was here. When everyone had entered, Odin stood up. "Welcome to the celebration. I have called you here today to meet and honor a new lord and lady to the realm," Odin said. There were polite applause, knowing their king was not finished. "Indeed, they have done much to protect their world. Midgard, so you may ask why they have been honored so. When first we met, Harry Potter was revealed to be a magic user of great power and repute. He has since proven to have great wisdom and generosity. Considering the prizes he has brought to Asgard, willingly and requesting nothing in return, I decided to reward unto him the station as Midgardian counsel to the throne. When my queen found that his chosen companion had an ailing, she decided to heal the young woman. She did so only because our new council decided that her safety and security was paramount before even his continued association with Asgard. There were gasps. Few had ever spurned the jewel of the 9 realms for anything before. Indeed, he showed his true character even then. But at our next meeting, our council and the young woman showed their gratitude in such a way that we could not stand by and not honor him and her. For the joy they bestowed upon my queen, and thus myself, I have appointed them Lord Harry Potter and Lady Natasha Romanoff. "Let us stand and honor the new Lord and Lady of Asgard," he intoned. Everybody stood and bowed. Even the king and queen turned and nodded to them. "Lord and Council Harry Potter, do you have any words at this time?" Odin asked. Harry had not been warned of this, but decided to take the opportunity to present his next surprises. "I was not aware that I would be required to speak, so I have not prepared the words, but let me speak from the heart, as I have often found honesty to never be the wrong thing to say." Harry said this quietly, but with a modified amplification charm in place. Everybody could hear him, as if he was speaking to them personally. "When I arrived in Asgard, I found a welcoming people. I have made friends and been shown your gracious hospitality. There has not been an occasion here that I did not feel welcomed and safe. So when I came back, it was with gifts that I thought to give in thanks of that kindness. Since then, I have been given honors for simply doing what I believed right and fitting. Therefore, I hope there are no further honors to give me as I present my latest creations to the king," Harry said. He removed the bag from around his neck and opened it. Then he waved his hand, and out came a flying carpet. He let it unfurl and levitated it above the crowd. It was huge, probably one of the biggest things he'd ever enchanted, besides houses. This is a flying carpet, enchanted in many ways for protection. But its greatest feature is that it can travel to 7 of the 9 realms, Harry said. He left it to hang there, rotating so many could see the golden glimmer of the royal coat of arms, right in the center. I was told of the Bifrost and how Asgard protected so many realms with its army, but we're unable to do so with the Bifrost, currently in need of repair. So I devised a plan, with the help of Lady Sif, to correct the issue. Here you have what I have come up with. No longer will the armies of Asgard be stationary. With this, you can deploy once more and protect what you once have. Harry finished. There was silence for a moment, and then an uproar of applause and shouting. Harry held up a hand to silence the crowd of celebrating people. It took a moment, but they soon gave him their attention again. "A couple more gifts, if you could give me some more of your time." Harry waved his hand again. A smaller carpet flew out and rotated next to its fellow. This is a gift to the king and queen themselves as a personal means of conveyance. It is much the same as the previous one, but much more heavily enchanted. I dare say while they are on it, they could not be in a safer place. There were nods of approval as the people considered it. Harry then reached into the bag 3 times and removed a bottle each time, having them float in the air in front of the king. "This time I present something more light-hearted. King Odin, if you please." Harry conjured 3 glass tumblers and had the bottles pour themselves a taste of each into a glass. Please taste this one first, giving him of the 25-year aged fire whiskey. Odin had looked at the bottles and understood what he was doing. Smiling, he took his time, taking the first, and looked at its color, sniffed it, and then took a drink. A fine batch you have made this time, even slightly better than the last, aged just 1 year more than before, Odin said with a pleased smile. The cheers roared again. People had been talking about the fire whiskey. So few had tasted it, and to say this was better than the last was truly a shock. Harry presented him with the second glass. Odin took it and performed much the same performance as before. Half a century has made the fire whiskey taste even better. You have outdone yourself. This half-century aged fire whiskey is truly something any king would want stored for only the best of occasions. The crowd was now silent, holding their breath in anticipation, wondering what the last glass could hold. If the first was half the age of the second, they could only guess at the third glass. Odin himself was excited now, wanting nothing more than to taste from the last glass. When Harry presented it, he did not waste his time in showmanship. He took the glass and put it directly to his mouth. Everyone was silent, waiting for the verdict. Odin was working very hard to contain his emotions, acting like he was thinking, and then turned to Harry. I cannot think of an occasion that would ever be worthy of this. It is like it was made by magic itself. Then Harry spoke, the crowd not knowing how to react yet. That is why this drink was not named fire whiskey at all, but Odin's brew. For no occasion is truly worthy of your presence in it. For the esteem I hold you in, Harry said with a deep bow. You have shown me much respect, and I will have to think hard on how to thank you for these wonders you have bestowed on our kingdom. King Odin said deep in thought. The crowd were dumbfounded. Nobody had ever seen the likes of the shock that passed Odin's face when he tasted from the last glass. A sense of awe settled on the crowd as what felt like a miracle had taken place. Harry then waved his hand one last time, and hundreds of bottles flew from the bag to stack themselves neatly on the dais. The 25-year, the 50-year, and the Odin's brew distinctly separated. 174 of each. The Odin's brew had 2 wolves and 2 ravens on each, animated to move around the label. Odin had the bottles taken away, much to the consternation of the crowd, until 100 bottles of the previous delivery was brought to the tables by the servants. Let the feast begin. Odin exclaimed, Let us be merry and give thanks to the one who has given us this marvelous nectar. The people were still quite subdued until the bottles were opened and people started tasting the marvel that was fire whiskey. Soon the party was quite rowdy, and Harry received nothing but respectful looks. Quite a few were looking at Natasha with looks of jealousy. Apparently she was drawing quite the attention this evening. They were soon mingling and chatting, many giving him thanks for allowing them to protect the realms once again. A warrior nation indeed. Some women were flirting with him, some with Natasha. Some men too, but fortunately not with Harry. Harry didn't mind though. She could handle them and was used to the attention. At some point they were separated, as men started talking about the fire whiskey and trying to get information about its creation. Harry was telling them that there were many steps he didn't know and that his partners would not like him telling their secrets anyway. They were trying anyway, but at some point they seemed to suddenly have other things to do. As the men cleared the way, a beautiful blonde woman in a green outfit approached him. So you are the wizard that has woven his way into the crown's favor, she asked. Hello. My name is Harry Potter. Is there something I can help you with? Harry asked politely. He got a strange sense from her that he didn't like. This woman had power, magical power, and it was unleashed. You may call me Lady Amora and leave your companion to spend time with me. As she spoke, her unleashed power twisted and started winding around Harry, attempting to enter his body. It was subtle in its jabs when it got to his mind, trying to find a weakness to enter. I'm afraid your attempts to enter my mind will fail, Harry said casually, taking a sip from his glass. Stronger than you have tried and failed. She blinked for a moment before retracting her power. I only meant to know you. You cannot blame a girl for trying, she said. Really? Because it sounded like you were trying to order me to leave Natasha for you, Harry said, still with a smile on his face. He didn't know it at the time, but King Odin and Queen Frigga were paying close attention. I remember your name. You are supposed to be a very powerful sorceress. I am, but don't you think me beautiful? Would I not make a better companion and mate than that of a mere Midgardian? She asked, moving closer to him, putting her hands on his chest. He smelled her sweet breath in his face and realized the smell was something he recognized. That potion is strong. You must be powerful to control it so easily. But I've experienced its like before. You cannot affect my emotions with it either, Harry said with a smirk as he took a step back. Why are you suddenly interested in me? Last I heard you were enamored by Prince Thor, he asked. Prince Thor is not a powerful sorcerer. Like yourself, I can feel the pressure of your will. Even now, you must be worth many of him for you to radiate such pure power. There was a mad gleam in her eye. Harry decided to cut this conversation short. I'm afraid you'll need to excuse me. I have a companion I need to attend to, he said, while starting to move to where he last saw her, talking to one of the Warriors Three. Not if I attend to her first, she said in response. I call for the right of challenge, she suddenly exclaimed, and the hall went silent. Harry stopped and turned around, his own magic suddenly unleashed and rippling over him in waves as his eyes flashed. You challenge me at your own peril. Not you. I challenge her, she scoffed, pointing at Natasha as she walked up to Harry. If she holds your heart, then I will take it from her. The crowd had moved back to see what would happen next. If you challenge Lady Natasha in my hall, you would do well to remember the consequences of failing. Odin bellowed. Should she defeat you, you would never be allowed to challenge her again. Do you understand and accept this? Odin asked from his throne. I do, King Odin. She is an unworthy cow next to his splendor, and I would make a far more appropriate companion. She spat at Natasha's feet. You will not insult my guests of honor and a lady in my presence. Odin bellowed again angrily. Amora looked torn. She knew she could take the unworthy woman out easily, but her claim would be tarnished if she did not enter battle against her with honor. After a moment she whispered, Sorry. Odin did not seem pleased, but continued, Make room for them to fight for their claim, he intoned. He had been informed that they would accept a challenger, so that Natasha would be left alone. He just hoped they knew what they were doing. Harry kissed Natasha. She has magic, not as powerful as mine, but still, she might be able to see you if you go stealth. I suggest that you use that only when you can quickly close the distance and finish it, he whispered to her. Don't worry, I've got a plan, she whispered back. There was an opening cleared in front of the dais. When Natasha and Amora were standing ready, Harry lifted his hand, and they were lifted up as a circular platform grew under them, so all could see. He didn't want anyone missing this, so that future challengers might think twice. Amora looked at him in awe with that mad gleam in her eyes again. Natasha simply touched her hand to her bracelet and said, Silent Widow. Her armor was suddenly on her and her glove in the bracelet's place. You may begin, Odin said. Next to him, Frigga was smiling. She had no doubt of the victor, given what Harry and Natasha had shared with her. Amora was first to act. She raised her hand and whispered an incantation. A bolt of blue energy flashed at Natasha. She simply lifted her gauntlet and clenched her fingers, activating the built-in shield. The spell hit the shield and dissipated into nothingness. The wizard has given you some toys, but that will not save you. She then ran to Natasha with a sword, which she summoned in her hand. Natasha took out her first baton and blocked the blow, then the second. She was taking her time, studying the woman's movements as she always did with new opponents. They started trading blows, and Natasha was soon keeping pace with her one hand. When she spotted a weakness, she quickly took her other baton and hit Amora in the back of the knee with it. She may be from Asgard, but weighted batons and years of training had served her well. Amora went down on one knee, but quickly recovered. Trying again, she doubled her efforts, her movements becoming quicker as she desperately tried to slash and skewer her opponent. But Natasha was simply better. She wasn't even aiming to injure yet. She let Amora vent her frustrations into her blows and blocked every attack, smirking when she got the other knee with another hit. Quit defending and attack me, Amora yelled, hoping her opponent would let her guard down. It did not work, but Natasha obliged and started stepping forward every couple of blows, driving her opponent back until they reached the other side of the platform and Amora had to dodge to the side or be thrown over the edge. Her dodge left her exposed for a moment, and Natasha stabbed the baton at her hip, shocking her with the electrical discharge. But it would not be so easy. Amora was from Asgard and was hardier than that. She did let out a grunt in pain, though, Then she rolled away and made some distance. She then raised her hands and started chanting, "Let's see if you can block this," she said when she had finished, as a great ball of fire was formed, and suspended above her head. There was a call of alarm from the audience, but Harry lifted his hand and caused a sphere of energy to surround the stage. Natasha, meanwhile, had stowed her batons and drew a gun. She first fired at the ball of flame, but nothing happened. Then she fired at Amora, where it hit. Holes appeared in her clothes, but it did not seem to faze her. Besides a slight wince, shrugging, Natasha fired a bullet right at her forehead. The hit may not puncture, but the force was still impressive, and Amora's head flew back. When the woman started firing her weapon, Amora had a hard time keeping her concentration on the spell. The projectiles hit like bolts from a crossbow, only stronger. When she was hit in the head, she feared losing control of the fireball, so she tossed it to the last location of her opponent. She smirked and watched as it flew to her location, and then exploded. Amora saw a dome of energy flare around the platform and smirked. She would have this sorcerer's power for herself. When Natasha saw the fireball coming for her, she muttered something and disappeared. The fireball exploded, but she had escaped it completely due to her armor. If Harry was to be believed, she could have simply stood there as her armor was made with protections against such things. She rushed behind her opponent on silent feet and raised one finger to her neck. Amora was impressed by her own power. She seemed to have disintegrated the tiny mortal. She was still smiling and mentally congratulating herself when everything went black. The crowd stood transfixed throughout the entire event. First, the Lady Natasha blocked a magical attack, and then took on her opponent with what looked like a short staff of some kind. Then she produced another and started beating her opponent back, until Amora had to dodge away from falling off the platform. Then, when Amora summoned a fireball to immolate her opponent, Lord Harry simply protected the observers. Apparently, he had full faith in his lady. When the fireball hit, only some had noticed her disappear a second before. While the sorceress was looking at her handiwork, she suddenly toppled over, unconscious. Natasha then reappeared in her armor. It was soon replaced with her elegant dress again, and she bowed to the king and queen, and then the audience. There was a massive applause and cheering, as everyone saw she had not even broken a sweat, let alone taken any injuries. Harry lowered the platform until it was gone, but before anyone could get to her to congratulate her, Harry was kissing the stuffing out of her. "Well done, that was brilliant," he said in her ear. "Thank you," she said breathlessly. Harry had done her more harm than her opponent could with his kiss. "Congratulations, Lady Natasha. You have truly defended your honor, and righteously so." Odin spoke from his throne. Natasha bowed to him again and said, "Thank you, King Odin." Soon the people were on them, and they were congratulating her on her overwhelming success. Harry got her attention, and she joined him where Amora lay, unconscious. Harry pointed a finger at her, and the crowd grew still. When she awoke, she jumped up. "What happened?" she demanded. "The cow defeated the sorceress," Natasha said simply, a wicked smile on her face. "That isn't possible," she screamed. "It is true. All of Asgard saw you fall to her hand. You have been bested. Be glad that you have your life, as I am certain. She had the power to end not just the fight, but your life as well," Odin said from where he sat. "She is an avenger, after all, one of Thor's companions from Midgard who defeated an army." Amora stood there shocked at all the faces looking at her like she was an interloper now. She couldn't have anyone looking down on her. Her power started to build again, angry and flaring. Harry felt the build-up and pointed a finger at her again. "One spell from you and you won't have to despair your loss ever again." His own aura was unleashed. She was threatening his friends. His eyes started glow, threatening the worst kind of vengeance with more power than she had felt in a long time. The room started to shake slightly. Natasha took Harry's hand and he suppressed his intent slightly. Amora looked at him again. "You will be mine. Mark my words." And then she vanished, having transported herself away. The people were looking at Harry in awe. Never before had he so let go of his power. For the first time, everyone knew to fear his anger and respected his control. There was another outbreak of applause and cheering. "I think it is time we began the feast," Odin said. The servants soon started streaming in with platters of food. Harry was surprised to note there were quite a few pizzas. He was glad Volstagg would not be bothering him again for food. They were seated next to the king and queen at the head table, and everyone started eating and retelling the story of what had just happened. "You chose a dangerous opponent," Frigga said to Natasha. I'm glad you were able to trounce her. I doubt you'll have any challengers now, as she is regarded as a great warrior and powerful sorceress. I had Harry's protections and the enchanted items he gave me. There was never a way for her to win. Natasha said offhandedly, she might become a hindrance later, though, so be careful. If she shows up on Midgard, I suggest that you allow Harry to handle the encounter, as the Enchantress is quite the schemer, Frigga warned. Enchantress? Harry asked, his attention drawn to one of his favorite subjects. Her title was gained through her ability to seduce men, not her magical prowess, though they do go hand in hand at times, Odin said. Well, that's different then, Harry conceded. She was trying to enter my mind first while we spoke, and then I detected a love potion on her breath. She must have brewed it so she could use her verse as a way to control people too, Harry explained. And why were you not affected? Odin asked. I have very strong mental shields. Nobody can enter them without permission, Harry explained. People have tried giving him love potions in the past as well, so he knows how to protect himself. Natasha added, that is very impressive. Do your skills allow you to enter another's mind as well? Frigga asked him. He can, but he doesn't like to. It was done to him too much while he was still a child, so he has grown an aversion to it. Natasha answered for him, the more I hear of your world, the less I sympathize with their demise. Frigga said, who would do that to a child? She exclaimed in impotent fury. They weren't all that bad. Harry defended his world. Of course not, Harry. I'm just sad for what you went through. Frigga apologized. It's also unfortunate you dislike the skill, for we have long tried to speak to Loki, but it refuses to tell us of who sent him and the Chitauri to your world. We had hoped we could redeem him if we could find out someone else had forced his hand. I may not like the skill, but if you require it of me, I may attempt it. Harry said sadly, no, we are friends, and as such, I will never force your hand like that. You are too valuable a resource to alienate you, so... Odin said seriously then, after all, where will Odin come by more? Odin's brew if you refuse to return to us. Odin smiled at him. Certainly 175 bottles will last you a while yet, Harry asked with a smirk. But we live such long lives, and people will want to taste it as reward for deeds they do in service of the crown. You do not seem to have realized the value of the drink you yourself have striven to create. Odin said sincerely, myself and others, Harry corrected. You must please remember that I was not alone in its creation. Bruce Banner and Tony Stark did as much, if not more, than myself. And your aging process was in part due to them? Odin asked with a raised eyebrow. Well, Bruce did find the spell. Harry said weakly, and you cast it. Don't undersell yourself on this, Harry. You are the major benefactor, but you are also correct. I will have to consider rewarding them as well. Odin relented. You have already paid for the delivery, Harry said. But you have not been paid enough for the enhanced quality of the latest delivery. I fear Asgard does not have enough gold to pay for what you have delivered to me. If you were a man like Fendral, I would have offered any woman you wished, many even, were they amenable. But you are not. It is difficult to give you a proper reward. So I will do what I can of as much value as I can offer, Odin said. As such, when will you start visiting more often? That I might instruct you in the magic of Asgard. Harry's mouth hung open. I think he just rewarded him more than you can imagine, King Odin. His one true passion is magic and helping others with it. Natasha said for him while he was still trying to gather himself. I think you are correct. I may have found a worthy reward indeed. Odin said with a smile, but then we have not discussed the magic carpets yet. That is of almost equal value to the people of the many worlds we strive to protect. Odin added, oh, that reminds me. Harry suddenly said, coming out of his stupor. He reached into his pocket and removed 2 mirrors. This one is for you. It is shrunken and can be placed on a wall in your briefing room. It is connected to the other ones. You may contact me, Thor. Heimdall, or this one, which I suggest you give to one of your people when they go to another world. Let me demonstrate. Harry held out the other mirror. Heimdall. It was not 1 second before Heimdall answered. Greetings, Harry and King Odin. Hi, Heimdall. I'm demonstrating the mirror and its use to the king. Harry said. Are you really? Heimdall said, with a look of interest. He failed at hiding his humor. Yeah, that just seems wrong. Forget I asked you to act surprised. It doesn't work. Harry said. Goodbye. Harry ended the connection before Heimdall could reply. Take that, Harry thought. This will be most useful, Odin said. I will for once be able to have contact with my people when they are in harm's way. There is another reason. The carpets always travel to the same places when they arrive on the different worlds, so they will need Heimdall to instruct them where to go when they arrive. Harry said slightly apologetically. It's more than we can do now, said Odin. You have still outdone yourself in service of Asgard, and you are not even one of its subjects. It is true, you are giving us a way to help thousands, millions of people. You have, by this one act, become the reason for so many less meaningless deaths. Frigga said, in my opinion, this was the most important gift you have given us yet. Speaking of gifts, Natasha said, why haven't you given Odin his sight back in his other eye like you did for Fury, Harry? Is this possible? Odin asked, raised eyebrow. Harry looked at Odin. I would like to, but I'm not sure my enchantments would work on an Asgardian, and I didn't want to give the king hope just to fail. You are, from our perspective at least, an alien race, and it is a very delicate piece of magic that reaches into the mind and accesses certain parts of the brain to give it input, he said apologetically. Sorry, Natasha said. I didn't know. Could you try anyway? Frigga asked. We could always remove it if the enchantment fails. We Aesir can take a lot of pain and recover if that is your fear. Harry reached into his bag and withdrew the eye patch he had been carrying with him for the last couple of weeks. I have one already that I made for you, but I realized only afterward that there might be issues, so I kept it to myself. I didn't want to experiment with the king. Until tested, it might have the opposite effect, basically blinding him. Harry said, handing the patch to Odin. Let us try it in a safe environment first. Odin said, standing up. He spoke to a servant who quickly left. Then he spoke loudly. We will adjourn for a few moments. Continue as you are. When they reached the privacy of another room, there was a wrinkled old man waiting for them. He had a stump for a leg and one eye, battle scars all over his body. My king, he said with a bow. Treg. Yes, I sent for you because we have need of you. The wizard has made an artifact that might restore my eye, but he was worried that because we are Asgardian, it might affect us differently. He fears pain, or even complete blindness. Would you be willing to test this artifact for me? If it fails or has negative effects, I will ensure to commission him to resolve the issue until it works, and your care will be seen to here in the palace until that time. Odin explained, If there is need for me, I would be happy to be of service, he said at once. Then, should the artifact work, would it be possible for you to commission one for me, sire? Treg asked. I would be glad to, Odin assured him. He handed the eye patch to Triggy. Triggy put the eye patch on his head and waited. It doesn't seem to be doing anything, sire. Give it a moment. The enchantments are complex and precise. It takes a couple of seconds, even for Midgardians. Harry said. They waited another 30 seconds. I still don't, he trailed off. Wait, I think... He was looking around, awe suddenly on his face. It is working! It started so slowly, I almost didn't notice. This is a miracle. It works? Odin exclaimed. Huh? Will your wonders never cease? He thumped Harry on the back. Thank you, King Odin, Harry said, with a smile. Genuinely happy for him. He just wished he had an extra one with him. Trig's wonder made him feel bad for the man, when he reluctantly took it off and handed it to King Odin. I have an idea that might be useful to you. Yet, Trig. Harry focused and changed Trig's stumped leg to look like a real one. And then he animated it. He was doing this on the fly, never having experimented with this particular enchantment. It's what took intent from the mind to the carpet, but he thought that if he did it just right, he may just... Okay, try walking around a bit, Harry told the old man. Chirag looked at him funny, and then started moving about. Suddenly, with wonder in his one eye again, what a marvel! I can walk. He then jumped, and then ran to the other side of the room and back faster than Harry thought possible for such an old man. I'm almost whole again. You truly are a wizard. Now I can die on my feet and go to Valhalla. There were tears in his eyes. Our wizard truly is a wonderful man, Frigga said. There were so many denied their final battle. I may have other commissions for you now, Harry, Odin said with a smile. I thought you might, Harry sighed, but smiled. He did love helping people. If there were people lying about, wanting to be of use but encumbered by injury, he'd do what he could. I won't say I can fix everything. I'm just a man, and I was never trained officially in the medical arts. We'd not expect miracles around every corner, just possibilities. Frigga said, "This man was so wonderful. If he didn't have Natasha, she'd find him an Asgardian to tie him to their realm. Thank you for understanding my limitations." Odin was reaching for his current eye patch. "Just hold the new one over it. I'll do the rest," he said to Odin. Odin did that, and Harry melded it to the current patch, making it look exactly the same. A minute later, Odin exclaimed, "It worked. I did so miss this," he said, looking around in wonder before his eyes settled on his wife. "You look twice as beautiful with two eyes to behold you," he said, and then hugged her. "Perhaps a nice carpet ride so you can test your sight," Natasha suggested.
"Oh, I have been hoping to try it out."
Frigga said. "Why?" Harry exclaimed. "Why? What, Harry?" Odin asked. In his world, there seemed to be those who loved magic carpets and those who loved flying enchanted brooms. Harry is one of the latter. Natasha smirked. Every time someone shows their interest in the carpet over the broom, he feels his taste has been personally affronted. "Well, if you want us to know that and make an informed decision, you should have brought us both. As it stands, people will automatically think the carpet is best, because they were introduced to only it." Odin laughed. "That is fair, I suppose." Harry grumbled good-naturedly. "Remind me to show you a memory of a Quidditch match one day. That's the best example of brooms." They left the room and went back to the party. Harry levitated the carpet back down from where it still rotated and put it on the floor of the dais. He then conjured two thick, U-shaped pillows that could be sat in with armrests and stepped back, allowing the king and queen to sit down in them. The carpet rose and Odin and Frigga floated to the door. They turned around and Odin addressed the hall. "We are going to test the carpet. We will be back in a short while." The doors were opened, and when the king and queen were out, one of the guards came to Harry. "Lord Harry, if you could please bring the other carpet down, the king's personal guard would like to accompany him," he said respectfully. Harry understood it was his job, so brought it down and rolled it up, so it would fit through the doors. 3 guards took it, and they marched out of the hall. When the doors shut again, people started partying again. Harry was soon pulled into a discussion with the Warriors 3, and Natasha was in conversation with a couple of ladies. All the ladies now looked at her with respect and wanted to know how she had trained and how she had armored herself so quickly. Volstagg was happily eating while he drank fire whiskey. Harry warned him that no matter his tolerance, the magical drink could still affect him greatly. Fandral was telling Harry that he must have found the best Midgardian woman available, and Harry agreed. Then Hogan approached him. "Harry, could you make that other drink again? I quite enjoyed that." Harry had seldom heard him talk, so immediately agreed. Soon there was butterbeer all around again, and some people who preferred milder drinks were drinking that. Tregging, meanwhile, had started telling everyone what Harry had done for the king and showing off his foot. He had attained another shoe as well, so when people asked him about it, he happily rolled up and showed them the leg and how it moved. Harry was getting more and more stares. He was about to suggest that they leave when King Odin and Queen Frigga floated back in through the door. When they landed, Odin dismounted first and walked up to Harry. "Could you not have given us a couple of minutes?" he whispered harshly. "I'm afraid not, Majesty. Your royal guard were doing their jobs. I would not put your or the Queen's life in peril. Nor would I have them kill horses trying to keep up with you. I know how fast those carpets can go," Harry said with a smile. Odin grumbled, "I can't argue with your logic, but I don't have to be happy about it." He then moved off to his throne, while Queen Frigga approached, a smile on her face. "You must excuse Odin. He so seldom has a moment to himself." Frigga apologized. Harry leaned in close. "Well then, I suggest the next time you are on the carpet and want some privacy, you say the words to Vanaheim or to Alfheim. If the guards don't hear it, they'll have to go to Heimdall to find out where you are. I suspect that will give you a couple of minutes." Harry said this with a wink. Frigga instantly brightened and said, "Thank you," before leaving to sit by Odin. She was talking to him in whispers, and Harry could see the smile return to his face. Odin then turned to Harry and nodded at him in thanks. The evening was a rousing success, and just before they left, they were presented with an even larger amount of gold, twice as large by Harry's estimation. He was then asked for another 2/4 century and one of the half-century fire whiskey. Odin didn't want too much of the Odin's brew made, saying it's more valuable as a limited resource and that he didn't want to bankrupt Asgard, buying another load of those just yet. He'd be thinking in the meanwhile what he could present Harry for another one of those. Perhaps a seed from one of the golden apples if he promises to protect it, jealously, Odin thought. A couple of days later, Harry had purchased an island in Fiji, with enough space for his greenhouses and a private little beach where he could see beach houses in the future. It was ideal, as when it was winter in Malibu, it was summer in Fiji. He had immediately protected the island to be unplottable and with a Fidelius. He named it New Atlantis. Harry wanted to take his friends to the island for another date, so he had waited till Natasha was able to join them and arranged it so that Pepper was available as well. After setting up a surprise, Harry had picked up Natasha a bit early so he could snog her silly, although it usually ended the other way around. She had this way of getting him all riled up with just a look. Harry tended to level the playing field by sending a mild tickling charm down her entire body. Come on, Natasha. You carry on like this and I will end up canceling. You know how important this is to me, right? He begged as she kept on enticing him. If you wanted to leave now, you should have made more time, she said smoothly. A coy smile on her lips. We can go for a flight on the carpet later, if you want. But then we have to leave now. Harry promised, trying to bribe her. No, we've done the magic carpet ride. If you promise to take me out on your broom, though, you might be able to persuade me. She trailed off. Okay, deal. I haven't had the chance to try it anyway. What better place than over an island I own? Harry smiled at her. Thank you, she said suddenly. All business, she was good. He suspected that was her goal all along. You've not lost your edge at all. I think you won that round too, Harry said sadly. Yes, I did, she said smugly. Harry grabbed her in his arms, kissed her, and apparated. There you are, Tony said. I want to see this place of yours where I intend to build a second beach house, he joked. Oi, New Atlantis is meant to be my place. Let me set up my stuff first, before you start arguing about real estate, Harry joked back. Are you sure it's not bad luck to name your island after an island that supposedly sank under the waves? Pepper asked. It didn't sink, it is just charmed so you can't find it. Just like my island, Harry said happily. In your world, maybe, Natasha said, with that raised brow of hers, a small smirk on her lips. Okay, take hold of this. He held out a leg, which he took out of an inner pocket. Tony was apparently holding back from laughing. Where did you get this? Natasha's room, he finally said with a smirk. Tony, that's terrible. Pepper swatted his arm. Everybody took hold and Harry said, to the beach, and the portkey took them away. When they landed, it was late afternoon. Ouch! That's bright, Tony said. Harry produced a set of sunglasses that looked a lot like Tony's for himself. Natasha and Pepper obviously had thought of this and were already putting their own on. Tony just reached out, took Harry's sunglasses of his face, and put them on. Thanks, he said. Harry smirked and conjured another pair. So, what do you think? Harry said as he pointed at the white sand beach. With tropical trees a bit away from the ocean, it was a paradise. It was not a small island either. They had plenty of room for expansion and a large plateau in the middle, probably from when the island was originally formed. Tony pointed at the plateau and said, Dibs. Pepper folded her arms. We will not build another house on a cliff. Nobody will bother us here. We can finally have beachfront property without people gawking, she said. I want to use the top of the plateau to build a reservoir anyway. What's a tropical paradise without running streams and the sounds of nature? I was also thinking of a private hot spring. Always wanted to try one of those, Harry said. That does sound fun, Natasha said with a sultry smile, her meaning clear to all. Yes, it does, Pepper said, looking at Tony. You know what? Beachfront sounds perfect. Tony suddenly changed his tune. We could even make it a topless beach, he said, looking at Pepper. She just smirked at him. Natasha suddenly started taking her clothes off to reveal a two-piece bikini. Pepper soon followed suit. Harry, if you would, Natasha said, pointing next to her on the sand. Harry smirked, waved his hand, and revealed his surprise. There were a couple of deck chairs with tropical-looking drinks, magically cold, of course, in cup holders with tiny umbrellas. When did you set this up? Natasha asked. Just before I came to pick you up, actually, Harry said nonchalantly. Natasha grabbed him by the collar and kissed him passionately. It's this kind of thing that might make me keep you. If I'm only that lucky, Harry replied with a soft smile. You might just get that lucky. Her meaning was clear, but Harry moved ahead of them, so they couldn't see him blush. They were sitting on the beach chairs having their drinks when Tony said, You know, the only problem with this place is that we'll need some form of satellite connection so that we can connect with the rest of the world. I was actually thinking about that a while back. You remember I mentioned instant communications worldwide without delay? Harry asked. I do remember that. What did you have in mind? Tony asked excitedly. In lieu of answering, Harry took out his mirror. So you want to use the two-way mirrors as a relay? Tony had asked and thought about it. That could actually work. We would have to use fiber optics, melded to the mirrors to transport data, and we'd have to set up a cellular tower relay to use the mirror's available network to transmit communications. Tony was thinking it through and then asked, Wait, people won't even know when we leave Malibu this way, will they? We'd be as reachable here as there. Pepper might not prefer that, but yes, that is the idea. Unfortunately, I know next to nothing about the technology you were referring to, but I'll help out how I can, Harry said. You don't understand the implications of this, do you? I could create a single device that uses this technology to dial into a network that we host, bringing internet and communications to the entire world. No need for thousands of miles of cables running through the bottom of the ocean or satellite uplinks. We simply start the connection on our side and deliver the corresponding device to a communications hub anywhere in the world. We'd be taking the costs of setup to a fraction of the normal cost. We could then rent our connections at such a low price that you'd have to be an idiot to use any other company. Within a few years, we'll have taken over some of the biggest markets in the world, communications and connectivity. This is a project that will make our companies billions, if not trillions of dollars, and that at a fraction of the cost to the client. Tony was so ecstatic he got up and hugged Harry and lifted him off the deck chair. This is your dream, Harry. You can help so many people with this. Hold on a minute. Harry laughed as he was put down. We'll still have to take security into consideration. It would be impossible to steal the technology, but we can't have anyone trying to take our hardware apart and learning the secrets of these devices. If you're right, we'd probably also make more enemies than anyone else in the world, he said, suddenly realizing the truth of the matter. I'll have to protect it like we protect our PMGs, but it is very doable, Tony said negligently. Then a couple of thoughts hit him. We'd probably also have to figure out how to make the mirrors with runes for that. And to protect our loved ones, he looked at Pepper, who was staring at him open-mouthed for his show of affection earlier. It would probably be better to do a slow rollout of this technology. We'd have to keep our rates up until we're established, and then slowly lower our prices over the years until our competitors have faded out or we outright purchase them. That's actually financially also sound, as we'll be raking it in with next to no expense. In the meanwhile, we can start using our excess funds to start spreading the technology to rural areas and places that have none of the technology available. We can give it to them for free, even bringing us one step closer with every communications hub we set up. Tony finished. Harry, you may not be the smartest person in the world, but your ideas, while not completely thought through, will one day change the entire world, and I'm glad to call you my friend. Tony said sincerely. That being said, you still suck at poker. Tony joked and punched him in the arm, playfully. In his exuberance, Tony picked up Pepper and twirled her around. We can fix it, Pepper. We can fix the damage Stark Industries has caused. Oh, Tony, I'm so happy for you, she said as she hugged him with tears in her eyes, knowing how long he had struggled with the idea that the innocent had suffered because of his contributions to the arms race. Natasha walked up to Harry as he stood there smiling, looking at Tony, being so uncharacteristically happy. She enfolded him in her arms and hugged him. This will change so many lives for the better. You are a hero even now, while just making plans to keep your friends happy, she said softly. Well, we still haven't figured out how to produce water, Harry said. Actually, I might have an idea about that, Tony spoke up. Yeah? Harry asked. While I've not found a way to create water from the air, I have found a rune cluster that can purify water, Tony said. How does that help us? Harry asked. The ocean, Natasha realized. Exactly. We would still need to pump the water, unless you can somehow create a portal that will simply transport it. He looked at Harry hopefully. Sorry, not that I'm aware of. We could look, though. Maybe there's something in the library, Harry replied. Maybe we will find the answer when we figure out how to make the mirrors with the runes. After all, you are technically connecting two places together, Tony theorized. Enough shop talk, Pepper said. This is supposed to be a date. Yes, I think it's time you kept your part of the bargain, Natasha said with a smile. She hoped it would calm him. That is a great idea. I'll go fetch it quick. Harry stepped back from her and apparated home. What bargain? Pepper asked. You'll see. Natasha said. Harry reappeared carrying a broom in his hands. It was one of the top models he owned, made for speed. Let me just take her up first so I can see how she handles, Harry said as he mounted the broom. Without waiting for a reply, he shot off, holding on for dear life. The sound of a sonic boom followed a couple of seconds later, and Harry didn't seem to stop accelerating. He'd had to cast sticking charms on himself to keep from falling off and a wind-shielding spell to protect himself from the harsh winds. He had only just managed that before he breached the sound barrier. From down on the beach, they had lost sight of him in under a minute. When they saw him again, he shot past them so fast, they lost him in under a couple of seconds. Tony's mouth was agape. He could not even go that fast. When Harry appeared the final time, he was flying much more sedately. He landed next to them, a huge smile on his face. "That was awesome," he screamed at the sky. "I don't know why I waited so long to try this. Harry, you were flying faster than even I could. How are you even alive? You should have broken all your bones with how fast you were accelerating." Tony exclaimed, "Nah, brooms are enchanted to counteract most of the G-forces." Harry scoffed, smile still on his face. "Okay, fair enough. But we'll need to start talking about a space program. With what you just showed me and what we're already working on, we could potentially start the world's most advanced space program on the planet." Tony enthused. More ideas were flying through his head. Portkeys and Apparition already traveled through some kind of wormhole, as far as he could tell. Faster than light travel might be a possibility somewhere in the near future. Not to mention their communications idea. "I always wondered what it would be like to own a house on the moon," Harry joked. Tony looked like he was going to explode with excitement. He started muttering about plans and possibilities. Harry quickly beckoned Natasha and showed her how to mount behind him. Just in case, he cast a sticking spell on her so she'd be stick to him. The fact that she was in a bikini might or might not have been the reason he wanted her pressed up behind him. She didn't seem to mind. Harry took off, if a bit more sedately, the wind-shielding charm already in place. They flew around the island a couple of times and then went straight out over the ocean. He kept on accelerating until Natasha tapped him to indicate that he should slow down. When they were back to only about twice the speed of sound, he heard her laughing. "I thought you said it could only go twice as fast as the carpet," she exclaimed with a huge smile on her face. "I don't know why it's going this fast either. Maybe it's the wind-shielding spell," Harry waged. "Maybe we should probably head back, but don't land by Tony or Pepper. I seem to have lost my bikini," she said, and Harry looked at her, blushing. She was smiling at him. They landed behind the tree line, and after they dismounted, Harry conjured a bikini and handed it back to her, looking the other way. Always the gentleman. She laughed and accepted it. "We should probably head back," Harry said. Before he could move, though, Natasha had tackled him to the ground. She was kissing him, senseless. She really loved the speed. It was only a couple of minutes later that she let him up. "Woman," he accused. She definitely had some kind of magic over him, and now he needed to calm down before they could go back to their friends. Natasha's body leaning over him still was not helping. From this angle, her cleavage was captivating. The bikini might be slightly too small. She noticed him looking and said, I could always take it off again." Her smile was alluring, and he had to fight his baser instincts to control himself. When Tony and Pepper noticed them coming, it was a blushing Harry and a smirking Natasha, wearing a new slightly too small bikini. Pepper noticed the fact and walked up to them, her hand in her handbag. When it came out, it was with her backup bikini for Natasha. "Are you sure you're not a witch?" Harry asked. "No, just prepared," Pepper responded with a smile. Natasha had graciously accepted and was walking back to the tray line. "What happened?" she asked. The wind-shielding charm wasn't enough to stop all the wind. It blocked the direct wind fairly well, but we were still buffeted from the sides. I think we were going a bit more than twice the speed of the carpet at the time. Harry explained. When Natasha had walked off, Harry was able to calm down and the blush finally faded. When Natasha returned, they continued their conversation for a bit, deciding that they'd need the runes completed before discussing the mirror relay, which Tony started calling the Instant Remote Data Relay, or IRDR, or the possibility of a Potter Stark space program. The rest of the daylight was spent just enjoying the sun and fruity drinks. When the sun finally set, they went to Harry's place where Bruce was expecting them and he had food prepared. It was nearing midnight back home. After all, Bruce had even offered it. Harry spent the next week preparing greenhouses and enclosures for the first of their magical creatures. Harry wanted some of the creatures to roam freely, while other, more territorial ones were meant to be kept in enclosed environments. Harry decided to maximize his space use by doing what he did with the chickens. He'd clear out a portion of the plateau and expanded the space to its maximum capacity. He'd then modify the environment to the creature's natural environment and enchant an illusionary sky, which emulates what they required most: rain and sunshine, fire and brimstone. He'd be able to have hundreds of such enclosures. Those were all meant for the violently inclined or creatures that didn't handle people well. He had just returned home from a day of work on the beach, Natasha having joined him as always when his phone rang. "Hello," Harry answered, not recognizing the number. "Is this Ghost?" the voice said on the other side. "This is he. Who, may I ask, is calling?" Harry was suddenly at attention. It was a young woman's voice, and she sounded panicked. "It's Marie, we need your help," she said. "Where are you?" Harry asked. "We're at the school," she answered. "We'll be right there." He hung up the phone, donned his armor, and pulled up his hood and mask. Natasha had heard the conversation and called up her own equipment. Wordlessly, she put a hand on his shoulder, and they disapparated. They arrived on the porch of the school. Harry walked in and saw panicked and wounded children. No adults visible. "Where's Marie?" he said loudly. Some of the children jumped and screamed, but most recognized him from TV and the one time he had visited, but that time he wasn't in gear. "She's in the professor's office," one of them said. "We'll go fetch her and get all the wounded to me," Harry ordered. He wasted no time and went to the worst wounded he saw. A young boy with his arm shot nearly completely off. Harry held his hand over the wound and said, "Don't worry, young man. We're here to help." His words seemed to calm the kid slightly. It took only a minute, and the arm was reattached, and his bleeding stopped. Harry could not spend more time on him, but at least he wouldn't lose the arm or bleed to death. He was about to ask for the next most wounded, when Natasha called him over. She had been looking through the wounded and prioritizing. "Damn, it was good to have her around." He moved up to the next one and scanned her. It seemed the spine was severed. Fox, there was a flash of light, and the phoenix appeared. Harry pointed at the kid, and without needing to be asked, the phoenix jumped onto the girl and cried a couple of tears into the wound. Natasha pointed out the next victim, and Harry went there next while she assured everyone that Fox was a friend and he would help where he was really needed. It took another 15 minutes and one more victim needing Fox's help, but they were all stabilized and Harry could ask the important questions. "What happened here?" Harry asked Marie, who had been waiting with Natasha when she told her to wait till Harry was done. "There was an attack. Someone with telepathic powers kept Xavier busy, and then the snipers hit the X-Men with tranks. Then they opened fire when the kids tried to help. Logan helped Marie heal, but then he was taken too. The professor was tranked and the telepath immobilized Logan. They put them in a helicopter and flew off. There was no insignia. The telepath was being controlled by some kind of device on his head. No names. Natasha had gotten the pertinent information. "Well, that doesn't help us a lot," Harry complained. "Did they say anything?" One of the previously wounded kids spoke up. "They called Logan Weapon X. That's something at least. Does anyone know anything about them?" Harry asked. There was no reply. "Damn, we're going to need intel," Harry muttered. "Okay, you lot stay here with Fox. Fox, come get me if anything goes wrong. In fact, could you go get Bruce, please?" Fox nodded and disappeared. 30 seconds later, Bruce and Sif appeared. She was holding her armor and weapons in her hand. "Good. These children were attacked. I need someone here in case any more bad guys show up. Can you handle that?" Harry asked. "Of course, Harry." "Are these kids okay?" Bruce asked, looking at the blood and the scared looks on the children. "Harry and Fox healed them. Some of them still aren't completely fixed, but we have to go find the people who did this, and quick. There are more people in trouble," Natasha said as Harry took out his mirror and stepped outside. "I'm going with you," Marie said. "I don't think so, kid. You're not trained enough," Natasha said. "I am trained," Marie insisted. "You're Anne-Marie, right?" At her nod, she asked, "Can you touch me without draining my strength?" "No, but—" Marie started. "Then no. Ghost told me about you. You're a good kid, but you lack control. What we'll be doing will need precision. If you want to help, stay here and help the Doc and Sif." Then she turned around and walked out. "Our only choice," Harry was asking, I'm afraid so. He's the only one that's been able to track them so far. You'll have to get in contact with him, Fury said. Do you require help at the compound? We could send people. I'd rather we keep this off the books. These children are scared of anything in a uniform at this point. It would be best to let Bruce help them. I understand. Let me know if you require help. This is what S.H.I.E.L.D. does, you know? Fury asked with a raised eyebrow. I know, and we're here. Harry pointed the mirror at Natasha. That's good, I'm glad to see you have backup. When the captain is done on his mission, if necessary, I'll send him on through to help protect the kids. Fury said. Fury out. The line went dead and Natasha looked at Harry. What do we have? The Weapon X program. They went dark a couple of years back. S.H.I.E.L.D. has been unable to pick up any trace, except for one. A mutant they experimented on. Wade Wilson, aka Deadpool. Shit, Natasha swore. Then he hires himself out as a merc. We can find him or contact him at Sister Margaret's School for Wayward Children, she said. An orphanage? Harry asked. It's a bar in New York City, Natasha said. You know where it is? Harry asked. Natasha nodded, and without further ado, Harry turned around and let her get on his back, then flew directly there with her pointing over his shoulder. They walked into the bar. It had all kinds of rough-looking people. Harry wasn't impressed. He walked up to the bartender. We're looking for Wade Wilson. And I want a Tamagotchi, the bartender joked. The patrons laughed. I'm not looking to make trouble here. We're trying to save some people. He's the only one that can help, Natasha said. Wait, hold on. You're those two supers from the alien attack? Can I get an autograph? The barman still refused to give them anything. One of the beefy men put a hand on Natasha's shoulder. He shouldn't have done that. His arm was twisted. His feet kicked out from under him, and his head made hard contact with the counter, Natasha's hand on it. The next moment, there was the sound of 30 guns being cocked. I don't like it when people come into my bar and attack my patrons. The bartender had a steely look in his eyes as he took a shotgun from under the counter. And my friend doesn't like being touched. Harry growled. We need information on Weapon X, and Wade Wilson is just sitting in the corner there acting like he doesn't hear us. Harry pointed into a corner. Then he lifted his hand, and all the firearms flew up to the ceiling. Can you get us a drink? Thanks, Harry said sarcastically and turned to the person sitting in the corner. Wade Wilson was sitting there minding his own business when two heroes walked into the bar. They asked Weasel a friendly question and got a friendly answer. They tried again, and Weasel did the same. Sounds good so far, right? No, the girlie didn't like being touched. So poor Buck's face had to be pancaked. He needed the dental work anyway. Then the scary-looking one mentioned something really fun. Ooh, look, he's coming over. Let's see what he says, readers. Wade thought. Hello, Mr. Wilson. May we please join you? Harry asked politely, not knowing the fourth wall had just been broken. They were not shocked by his appearance. They'd both seen pictures of him and worse. Oh, please, call me Deadpool. Take a seat. Project X, you say. Why, yes, I know exactly where they are. Take you there? No, I've got plans to go for ice cream in Malibu while needlessly reminiscing my past with Steve Rogers, he said before they'd even sat down. Harry was shocked. This guy knew too much. How did you— Oh, I know all kinds of stuff, Wade said. Do you know where we can find the Weapon X facility? Some people were taken and they shot a bunch of kids in the process, Harry said. This seemed to get his attention. Okay, let's forget that you just mentioned that because you somehow know I have a soft spot for the leaders of tomorrow and get down to brass tacks. I don't work for free and I'm going to need to help pay for poor Buck's new teeth. At this, he turned around and looked at the man still unconscious on the floor. Is he even still alive? Someone walked up to him and checked his pulse. Yeah, he's still got a pulse, he said sadly. Half the pub slammed their hands on their tables to show their displeasure. Weasel exclaimed, He's still in the pool. His money was on someone else anyway. Do you want to go over there and finish him off? I've got him down as the next one to die, Wade asked Natasha. She just looked at him. Okay, fine. Let's see. That's weapons and ammunition, rescue fee, deduct for the vengeance part of the deal, and then the nifty trinket you'll give me to get my looks back. Let's call it, I will owe you one after this. How's that? He said as he took a picture from his pocket. It was a naked picture of Wade from before his mutation. I just happened to carry naked pictures of what I used to look like, so I can give them to overpowered magical people who can create a trinket that will make me look like that again. Please, can you make it a cool-looking bracelet? I don't like necklaces. They take away from my feminine appeal. Wade finished with a smile. Harry said intelligently. He shook himself and quickly stashed the photo. Okay, but no more talking about my secrets. That will be my price, Harry stated. You do for me what I know you can, and I'll have your babies. Wade said as he got up. Let's go. Their previous location was at a lake, until someone tried to get someone else to kill all the mutants on the planet. You would think they've got some sort of defense against being kidnapped again by now, and with that he started walking out of the bar. Did you follow half of that? Natasha asked. Just about that much. They weren't kidding. He's either certifiable or a certifiable seer, Harry said. They left the bar, and Wade was in an old-timey phone booth, changing into his outfit. Was that there before? Natasha asked. Not that I recall, Harry mused. This guy was strange, but fun. I'll be out in a minute, Deadpool called. When he came out, he was fully dressed. Where are we going? Harry asked. Canada. There's an old unused train station outside Nelson. Last I heard, they had a secret base built underneath, Deadpool said. Do I get to be on the back while you carry her, or how are we doing this? Natasha put her hand on Harry's shoulder and said, Spokane, Washington, then north. Wade put a hand on his other shoulder. They apparated away, and soon Natasha was on his back again as Harry levitated Wade next to them. No offense, Harry said. No, I get it. Just don't tell my girl. She'd tell me to take a shower, Wade said. It took a bit of time, but they were soon at their destination. Wade kept talking the whole time. Harry asked him what they could expect, but Wade simply said that it wasn't anything they couldn't handle, and then started talking about Logan, somehow knowing who they would find at the base. He also let slip that he knew who Harry was, but not where he lived. Apparently someone named the author never wrote it down. When they landed outside the station, Wade started moving in its direction. Wait, Harry said. We're going stealth. Harry touched a finger to Wade's head, and he was instantly disillusioned. When Harry and Natasha disappeared, Wade said, You do know that I can still see you, right? Yeah, that's the idea. We can see each other. That way, when you try to cop a feel, we'll know it wasn't by accident. Natasha said with a flinty look. But he's so handsome. In a mysterious, you can't see his face kind of way, Wade said. Harry couldn't help it, he laughed. The guy was funny, he'd give him that. Don't encourage him, Natasha said. Wade took the lead. They were soon in the train station and it seemed abandoned, except for the new footprints in the snow that had fallen through the broken roof. They followed it to a wall. There was no door, no handle, nothing. Harry, having seen a couple of secret doors in his life, cast an unlocking charm at the wall and a seam appeared. But it didn't open. Must be technological. Wade jammed his swords in the crack and forced it open. Harry winced at the use of the blades. When the door was opened, they found a hallway. They followed the hallway, and a couple of guards met their end at Wade's blades. Harry had told him to stop killing people and just sneak past. But Wade inevitably sneezed or coughed every time, giving his position away and forcing him to act. Harry ended up stunning any further guards and soldiers they came across. You know, you're taking all the fun out of this for me. These are the same people who shot children, remember? Wade asked. I tell you what, once we've got the people we are here for out, you can go nuts. Harry reached out and handed him a card. When you're done, give it an hour and say Harry's place, and you will be taken there. I'll sort out your payment there. Done deal, boss man. Wade enthused. The rest of the trip down the many levels was done in silence, thankfully. Once they reached what seemed to be the command center, Harry had to hold Deadpool back when he attempted to go nuts. He decided to silence him as well. While he liked the witticisms, now wasn't the time. They walked in and Harry saw they had the X-Men all strung out in rooms that they monitored via screens. Harry decided that the easiest would be to go for Xavier first. He quietly informed the rest what he'd be doing and took them with him. The moment they arrived in the room, Harry quickly disabled the cameras, conjured a wheelchair, and freed the professor. Once he was in the wheelchair, Harry removed the technological band from his head and enervated the professor. He came to slowly, probably still having something in his system. Harry cast a sobering charm. That seemed to help a bit as Xavier was suddenly more focused. Where am I? He asked, looking around the room, seeing nobody but noting the cameras. Harry added him to their stealth, so he could see them. Ah, see. Don't go looking in my friends' minds. If you do, I'll carry out my threat from before, Harry harshly whispered. I was not looking into their minds. Wade Wilson's mind might just break my own, and I realized that Natasha Romanoff is off limits by your mere association with her. I was looking into the minds of our captors, who has already sent men to come investigate. They are fully armed and intent on killing anyone they find besides me. Xavier said, What do they want you for? Harry asked. They wanted to control us, just like they control the mind of the unfortunate man who is currently being possessed by the Shadow King. As Xavier stated, Okay, let's get you and your people out, Harry said. Do I need to worry about this Shadow King guy? Not you, but her. She would be vulnerable to him, Xavier said. Let's hope he chooses me or Wade then, Harry said. Wade was tapping his shoulder, pointing at his head. Harry canceled the silencing. He's up here already. I don't know why, but he's screaming, Wade said, a bewildered expression somehow being portrayed on his mask. Good, that should buy us a couple of minutes, Xavier said. Harry transported them to the next chamber, where they had Scott. Harry quickly freed him, added him to their stealth, cast a sobering charm, and enervated him. Fortunately, they had left his visor on. They repeated the process a couple more times, freeing Ororo, Jang, Kurt, the Nightcrawler, and Logan. There are more captives here, Azier informed Harry. I saw them. I was going to ask if they were safe to free, Harry said. 2 are new to me, so I don't know, but the last is the man controlled by the Shadow King. I would suggest you don't wake the other 2 just yet, and we bring them along. I don't know what we'll do about the Shadow King, Xavier said. Don't worry, I have a plan, Harry said. They quickly freed the 2 mutants and went to the last room. Harry was instantly assaulted by a powerful psychic burst. He resisted and stunned the man. Instantly the attack stopped. Apparently the man had found his mind again and had focused on the mind of the person who the others thought in charge. Harry bound the man and handed him off to Kurt. Then he turned to Wade, unsilenced him again and said, Have at it. Your stealth should last another 5 minutes once I'm gone, so use it well. Oh, this is going to be fun, Wade spoke up as he turned to leave. He slapped Logan on the ass as he left, saying, See you around, Logan. Then he drew his swords and left the room via the door. They heard men screaming before the door closed. I hate that guy, Logan growled. Are you sure that was wise? Xavier asked. Oh, I'm sure he'll be fine, Harry said. I wasn't worried for him, Xavier clarified. Harry didn't answer. They deserved what they got. Everyone touched the wheelchair. He made it a portkey, and they were soon all standing on the porch of the Institute. Kurt looked amazed. Scott looked green and clutched his stomach. Jane seemed to be faring slightly better. Logan looked unaffected. The professor had simply paled, but that might have been from his seeing what Wade was doing. Jane and Scott ran into the Institute to try and go help the survivors of the attack. Harry looked at them, and before he could say anything, Hulk walked out, with them backing away again. Harry, he said, with a smile. More men came. They ran when Bruce asked Hulk to help. Hulk pointed at a broken section of wall. Well done, big guy, Harry high-fived him. He then waved his hand and the wall repaired itself. We're taking care of that today. We can't help these kids if we can't keep them safe, can we? Harry asked, looking at Xavier. You left Hulk to take care of children? Jane exclaimed. No, I left Dr. Bruce Banner in charge to take care of the wounded. Sif helped. I suspect she stayed back to protect the kids while Hulk went out to play. I don't understand. Jane said in confusion. Hulk shrugged and changed back into Bruce. He's right, and he means that I let Hulk out when the children were in trouble again. He doesn't like children being threatened, and neither do I. His eyes had flashed green for a moment, signifying Hulk's approval of the statement. Apparently someone told another interested party that the children were unguarded, and they decided to try taking them. Rosario turned to Harry, who had quickly repaired Bruce's clothes again. If you can help, be my guest. I would like nothing better than to give them a safe environment. Xavier said sincerely, thinking of all the children that could have died. He had seen many get shot. Just then Fawkes flew out of the door and landed on Harry's shoulder. What is that? He asked. He is called Fawkes. He's a phoenix, and he came to help calm and heal the children. Harry said emphatically, May I assume you are the property owner? Harry asked. You may, Xavier acknowledged. Harry lifted his hand, and he, the professor, and Natasha rose into the air slowly. In short order, they went to the corners of the property, and Harry dropped magically charged stones outside the barriers to encompass the property fence. He then went to the Institute again and started focusing his magic for a couple of minutes. He's going to make your property a secret. Only he can then give the secret away. It's the safest your children will be. He'll probably demonstrate it as well. So don't get angry at him once he's done. It really is meant for them. Natasha was explaining. What goes on here is already a secret, Gordo said. Not like this. It's not. Natasha countered. There was a brilliant flash of light, and Harry realized he wasn't as tired as he had been hiding the island, but it should have taken a lot less. Then again, it made sense, as the Institute was more widely known about. Okay, follow me, Harry said as he led them to the front gate. He was levitating the professor's chair next to him as he walked. The rest of the X-Men followed as well. Harry was scribbling something on a piece of paper and handed it to Natasha, who read it immediately. She had seen this done enough. When they exited the property, Harry put Xavier down. Where do you live? He asked. I don't know. I know I live somewhere. I know what the house looks like. I just can't remember where it is. Did you wipe my memory of its location? Xavier was worried, but Natasha's warning kept him from getting angry. Read this, she said as she handed him the paper. He took it and read it. Then he looked up in wonder as the property slid into focus. This is miraculous. What's happening, Chuck? Logan asked. You just had why can't I say it? He asked of Harry. You're not the one holding the secret, so you can't reveal it. You have the key in your hand, though, Harry replied. Catching on, he had Logan read the paper. Logan looked mildly shocked for a split second before nodding at Harry. It was the closest thing Harry had seen to respect from the man. Yet, the rest of the team were more vocal. Jan was worried about the children, and Nightcrawler was saying a prayer of gratitude. Scott just looked in open-mouthed astonishment before actually smiling. When they re-entered the building, Harry spoke up. When you bring new people in, I suggest they go through a trial period to ensure they want to stay. Otherwise, don't show them the address. Also, don't lose that paper. You can't write it down either. Only I can. This was a very nice thing to do for us, Ghost, and I hear you stabilized the injured children when you arrived first. We cannot thank you enough. Xavier was smiling ear to ear. I still have some work to do on a couple of them, Harry said. Fox chirped in his ear. What did he say? Natasha asked. He said that if the professor hadn't tried to read his mind, he may have healed a spinal column. Harry said with a scowl, I did not know he was intelligent. I was just wondering if he was friendly when he flew to you. Xavier explained hastily. Harry looked at Fox for a moment. He says that might be true, but warns you to leave his mind alone. I wouldn't push him on this, Harry warned. Phoenixes have a strange sense of humor. He might transport you into the ocean for an hour to teach you a lesson, or set your bed on fire while you sleep. Fox chirped angrily. Okay. He wouldn't try to hurt you. Phoenixes are essentially the purest creatures known to man, but he would tell me and you know what I'll do. I do, Xavier said. Harry took off his hood and mask. Man, it's good to feel the sun on my face again. I thought you wanted to keep your identity secret. Xavier said with a frown. I have another secret to keep now, so I trust I'll be safe from you and your children. I suggest you take the kids that are staying here outside before showing them the secret so they can see how safe they truly are now. Apparently you get attacked here often, Harry said. Once everyone in the room knows the secret, you can discuss it. That's a useful way of knowing if undesirables have snuck in, as you won't be able to say it with someone not in the know in the room or in hearing distance. So you've given us even more security. Thank you, Ghost. Xavier said sincerely. You're welcome, and call me Harry, Harry said. They spent some time finishing the healing on the children and then went home to wait for Wade. Harry had to look at the picture again to make the amulet, but as vengeance, he made it as girly as he could manage, with unicorns and butterflies. Root arrived and turned around, looking at the greenhouse and house proper. Nice place you have here. Does it come in hetero? He asked, looking at the well-kept garden. Were you able to cut the head off the dragon? Harry asked. Nah, but I got a souvenir, he said, reaching into a pocket and taking out a hand. I'm thinking of mounting it over my mantelpiece. If I had one anyway, I might just grind it into mince and feed it to my neighbor's dog, he said. Conversationally, I'd rather not know. Natasha said and left into the house. You know, I might need your help again in the future. Do you have a number? Harry asked. Call Weasel, he can sort you out, he said. Then, did you make it? Can I be devilishly handsome again? Wade asked eagerly. There is a caveat. I enchanted it, so it will stop working if you kill anyone you consider innocent or not evil, Harry said. You hurt a young woman a while back with one of those swords of yours. If it weren't for me, she may have well died. I can't help you if I know you're a threat to those who don't deserve it. Obligatory threat, noted. Hand it over, Wade said eagerly, holding out a hand. Harry handed him the amulet and smirked. The smirk faded when Wade's eyes opened wide and he said, Unicorns! My favorite? Damn, was Harry's reply. Wade put on the amulet and took off his mask. Underneath, he looked as he once had. He walked up to a window and studied his reflection and ran his hand over his head, then frowned. I still feel like moldy avocado. It's an illusion, not a fix, Harry pointed out. Well, work on it. Maybe Odin has some ideas for you, Wade said. How do you know these things? Harry asked, confused. I don't know, asked the author, Wade said simply. Hey, will you be a bud and take me back to the bar? It's on the other side of the country, you know, Wade then asked. Harry just shook himself at the non-answer. Sure, just let me go fetch something. Harry disappeared and reappeared in a couple of seconds. He then took Wade's shoulder and they reappeared in front of the bar. Harry's hood and mask in place. They walked in and everybody stared at Wade. Yes, that's right. I got my mojo back, he exclaimed. Harry just walked to Buck and healed his face. Sorry about that, but don't touch a lady uninvited. Buck felt his face and nodded. Sorry about that. Harry walked to the bar and took out the bottle he had fetched. This is for the trouble. It's called fire whiskey, and will probably be worth a lot of money. Once you hear about it, I suggest you give Buck a bit, though. It'll cheer him right up. I've already heard about it. That stuff's worth a fortune. Weasel said from behind the bar. Sorry about before. We don't usually get along with goody-goodies around here. He apologized. Then, any chance I can have my gun back, he said, looking at the ceiling where the shotgun was still stuck. Oh, sorry about that. Harry clicked his fingers and all the guns fell to the floor. Some were quick enough to catch them, but one landed badly and Buck got a round through his calf. He screamed in pain. Yeah, I'd open that bottle and give him a drink, Harry said as he moved over and healed the guy again. You have the worst luck, Buck. That wasn't his luck. It was yours. Wade said from right behind him, putting a shot glass in front of Buck. It had a shot topped with whipped cream. Buck frowned. Wade smiled. Soon there was a bar fight going, and Harry decided to extract himself. These people didn't just look rough. He'd have to remember to bring Thor there sometime. Harry arrived back home. He got into his normal clothes and decided to go for a nap. He'd had a long day. When his phone vibrated, he almost threw it against a wall. He picked it up and answered, What? Hi, I'm good. Thanks for asking. It was Tony. Dude, I just spent the day working on the island, rescuing powered people and hanging around a crazy man. Please tell me it can wait, he begged. If you want, I just thought I'd tell you. I've got the IRDR and the water problem solved in one go. But you go ahead and rest. I'll chat to you tomorrow. Tony then hung up. Harry groaned. Then he got up and went to go find Natasha. She had decided to go for a nap too, but she was resting on a couch with the TV going, mutely. He walked up to her quietly and kissed her softly on the lips. She moaned and her arms came up around him. You want to join me? She asked. I'm afraid not, Nat. Tony's made a breakthrough and I just wanted you to know where I'd be. Harry said softly, Okay then, be careful. I'll see you later, she said sleepily, letting him go. Harry smiled at her. He loved how she looked while she slept. She seemed somehow vulnerable, cute. He left the room and apparated away to Tony's lab and appeared just outside. Thought that might get your attention. Tony said as he heard Harry's arrival, Come see. Harry walked up to him and looked at the screen. What am I looking at? The future, Harry, Tony said. He pointed at the screen where a mechanical arm was currently holding a flashlight pointing down over a table. There was a rune scheme to connect two places together for apparition, apparently. The theory was that it would allow someone to focus their apparition through that point and arrive at the connected side without knowing the destination. The idea was soon let go as too many accidents happened in testing, but the power requirements to make a worthwhile-sized portal would be astronomical. One big enough to send a craft would need more power than all the magical people in your world together could provide. I found it in the third mastery book. It was given as an example that could be used for theory, but had been proven as unusable. Don't look at me like that. I worked my way to it, fairly just like I promised, Tony said at Harry's look of incredulity. You mean you've almost finished your mastery already? Harry asked. I know normal people struggle with it, but I'm all about application, and I have all the nifty lasers your people didn't have and a safe testing environment. I can skip some of the theory when I get to it, and I can run simulations. Jarvis is learning as I go as well, and helps me when my plans don't take things into consideration. Tony explained. Is that true? Harry asked the AI. Yes, it is, Harry. I'm constantly reminding Mr. Stark when he doesn't take the correct principles into consideration. I once prevented him from making a mistake that would have destroyed the testing environment. Jarvis said slightly smugly. Good man, Harry said. Knowing Tony, he'd have skipped protocol and started experimenting here. And Harry had a thought. You do realize that if Tony ever breaks his contract with me and forgets the information, so will you, as his property. I mean, we'll just have to ensure he doesn't do that, then. Jarvis replied, Jarvis? Why do you hate me? Tony asked. I swear he's getting more intelligent because of the runes we're studying. It is possible that he's becoming a living being. My old school had a personality and everything. It would move staircases around to mess with people, Harry said. You're telling me Jarvis might become truly sentient? Tony asked in shock. Well, yes, Harry shrugged. Cool, Tony smiled, happy that he may have had a hand in the world's first truly aware artificial intelligence. You were saying about portals, Harry reminded him. Yes, of course, he suddenly got back into his discovery. Look there, he pointed at a blank piece of the same table. The arm moved, and when it got to a specific location, light shone from the place Tony was pointing. See, light can still travel through, even if the hole is minuscule. If light can go through, Tony started. Then so can water, Harry exclaimed. Wizards wouldn't think of that, because they can simply make water. You're a genius, Tony. I know, Tony said, smugly, but still smiled like a maniac. Here's the best part. When I add enough power to the scheme, the hole is just big enough for one optical fiber to go through. We need only one to do most of what we want for both water and information. Tony exclaimed, we would need to build a tank for the water to collect, but we can set up the incoming side to only let pure water through with the rune scheme. I told you about, that way the ocean retains its balance of nutrients and we don't affect the ecosystem in the sea. Can you protect this project like you did with the PMGs? Harry asked, excitedly. And what happens when the tanks are full? Can you set the runes to stop taking in water? It's a hole, Harry. We'll use a valve system, and yes, we can keep our runes safe. Jarvis? Tony asked. Yes, sir. We've already incorporated everything into the clusters and production. Your process is safe and already being produced. The first pair of IR-DR devices is already at the receiving area for pickup, Jarvis said. Harry didn't wait. He apparated to the secure location and returned with one cylindrical device with an antenna and ports in its underside and one rectangular one with a handle on one side, and ports in its rear. Tony walked up to him and took the cylindrical one and said, This is the one that goes on the remote side. The official IR-DR. There's a router built in, and it gets power from underneath. You can plug your network directly into it and it can function as a cellular relay and wireless hub simultaneously. He took the other one and pointed as he said, This is the induction node, or the AND node. It will be the point of contact with the internet and cellular networks. You can see the ports are in the back. He then pressed a soft metal plate, and the device broke into two adjoining pieces. This part, he said, indicating the smaller back part, can be mounted beforehand with its connections all ready. Then he indicated the other. This part slides in and connects those connections with the IR-DR. Did you follow that? He asked skeptically. Enough to know what they do, Harry said. One part makes internet and cell phones work, and the other part connected them to those services. We'll need to start our own cellular company for remote locations. When demand is high enough, we can start rolling out to more and bigger populations. This project will basically fund itself once we start receiving revenues for rental services. Best part is, worldwide communications will never be faster or more affordable. Our companies will be household names worldwide in less than a year. When we roll out the water supply tanks, we'll get to deduct those costs from tax. We'll be printing money and people will never be happier because their costs will go down. How will we explain these devices work when people start trying to smear us to keep their business? Harry asked. Prove it. If they can't prove it, they can't attack us. Tony said simply, we'll make the devices much bigger and hum a bit so that people think there's a hefty process involved and draw attention to the wrong parts so nobody ever suspects where anything comes from. Leave that in my hands. By the time this rolls out, they won't be able to sonar, X-ray or anything else to see what's making it work, he said confidently. If we take the devices together with a PMG, won't people think one is powering the other? Harry wagered, that's not a bad idea. I'll see if I can work it that way. Who knows, maybe I can figure out your dimensional pocket and have the tank so small it will look like a part of the pipes. Tony said, that's not a great idea. You'd still need a wizard to expand and shape the pocket. Harry denied. Fair enough, let's stick a pin in that one for another day. Tony accepted. On the bright side, we can start construction on our beach houses. You got Pepper to start working with the architects in the meantime, right? Harry asked. She's been planning up a storm. We need to think of at least 2 more houses for friends and guests on New Atlantis. There's even talk of that resort. Pepper's been looking for another island to build that on, though we'd need a large one with a runway and an airport. I hear her talking on her mirror with Natasha sometimes. I think they've become good friends. Tony said. That's good. I think they both need that. We'll need to plan a holiday at an undisclosed location when we've got the houses built, Harry said. Maybe we can invite Odin and Rigga. Apparently Odin never gets any time off or away from supervision. With the mirrors he can be back home whenever he wants and there won't be a safer location than my island. Won't they expect servants and guards anyway? Tony asked. What would they need guards for? Almost nothing on our planet can harm them and the dangerous beasts will be unable to find the exits to their enclosures as those will be hidden by Fidelius. Only those going in will be able to read the sign telling them how to exit and enter. Harry said, and if Odin wants to bring some servants, he's welcome. He'll be spoiling the whole idea of a vacation, but that's his prerogative. What about burrowing creatures, or those that can destroy the walls? Tony asked. Imperturbable charms throughout. Couldn't make a dent in them if you tried. Harry scoffed. For those that need it, I'll first excavate and then fill up after the charm is in place. You've really thought this out, haven't you? Tony asked. Have to be careful. If those creatures get loose in our world, it could be disastrous. Harry shuddered. And I also intend to let some creatures run free. Imagine our girls seeing an Abraxan or a unicorn while they go for a walk. Abraxan? Tony asked. Large Pegasus, Harry clarified. Aren't those the flying horses? What if they leave the island? Tony asked. I'm going to try and get them to want to stay here, but just in case, I'll have to enchant collars that make that impossible. Harry said. Suddenly, his phone rang again. Harry was really getting tired of it. Yes, he answered. Good evening, Harry, Xavier said. I'd like to request that you return to the Institute. We still have the Shadow King to deal with. You insinuated that you had a plan to deal with him, Xavier asked. Oh, right, sorry. I had a long day. I'll be right over, Harry said, and hung up. Sorry, Tony. Duty calls. No problem. See you tomorrow morning. I've got the building supplies ready. Just swing by and pick us up, Tony said. Will do, Harry said, and disappeared. Hello, Harry, Xavier said, having expected him on the porch. Harry tended to land outside of buildings if not expressly permitted to do so inside. Hi, Professor. Where did you put the nightmare? Harry asked as he was let in. You know of his history? Xavier asked. No, it was a turn of phrase. You mean he started as some form of dream? Harry asked incredulously. Talk about your boogeyman. Apparently his existence started the moment a human had their first nightmare. He feeds on the darkness in the human soul. Xavier said gravely, If I can drive him out, do you have a way to contain him? Harry asked. There's no known way to permanently contain or destroy him. He dwells in the space between this dimension and the astral plane. When he doesn't have a host, Xavier said. So if I drive him out, he'll seek a new host, and if he can't find one, he'll go back to this in-between place? Harry asked.
That is our best hope.
Do you know of a way to achieve this? Xavier asked. Could this man do anything? There's a possibility, Harry replied. Please bring the man and all the children to your cafeteria. I would rather not expose the children to this. Xavier said. If my plan works, he'll have to flee this dimension, but if there is someone nearby, but not in my vicinity, he might end up possessing them outside my protection. Harry said. Rouzier had thought about it for a bit. It was better than the alternative of keeping the man comatose. Very well, I'll see to it that everyone joins. Harry went to the cafeteria and started layering spells on the roof, floor, walls, doors, and windows. Every kind of protection he knew of that might affect an ethereal being. Standard shielding charms might help, so he added them too. He was doing everything he could think of that might affect the only other nightmarish creature he had personal experience with, layering happy memories into his intent to protect the hall from being entered or exited. Once the doors were all closed, the children had started showing up when Harry was still busy. By the time he finished, everyone was there. The possessed man had just been brought in on a gurney. Close all the doors and windows. Everyone in that corner. Harry pointed to the furthest corner. Then he took the gurney to the other corner. I'm about to start. Don't worry, I've got this, he said, it confidently. He needed them to believe him. He didn't want dark thoughts to draw this creature. He held his hands up and activated the protections. The walls started to glow. He moved between the others and the man. Then he cast his Patronus twice, both behind and in front of himself. When two prongs came galloping out, Harry sent an enervate at the man, knowing the demonic creature might decide to hide in his mind. Otherwise, the moment the enervate hit the man, he started to scream. Good, it looks like it is working, Harry thought. He kept his concentration on the man, as black smoke started rising from him, until it seemed to solidify in the air above the man, who suddenly looked afraid at the insubstantial blob above him. Harry moved a hand and moved the gurney back to the others. You think you can banish me so easily, Warlock? Stronger than you have tried. I am no mere demon. I am fear and darkness incarnate. A voice came from the shadow as a face and body started to form. I don't intend to banish you. I intend to destroy you, Harry said. Then he focused all his will on creating more Petrony. 5 more joined the one in front of Harry. Your illusions do not scare me, it hissed and swiped a hand at one of the creatures, trying to dispel what it thought was an illusion. As its hand made contact, it screamed in pain, and when he lifted his hand away, half of it had been burned away. This cannot be. What are you? It asked. I am one whose power is greater than yours, Harry screamed his defiance. He had not expected this. He had been bluffing. He had hoped to scare the creature into fleeing, but if he could stop it, even better. I will not die this day, but I will find you and take that power for myself, the creature said, as it attempted to flee through a wall. It couldn't pass. You have trapped me. That is impossible. It tried the floor and the roof, the patronet keeping pace with it, not allowing it closer to the people they were protecting. Call them off. You cannot do this. But I already have, Harry said, and with a wave of his hand the patronet attacked, ramming the creature with their horns. It started screaming in pain, and when he had taken enough damage, started breaking apart. As the pieces fell, before they hit the floor, the final patroness left the people in the corner and ran through the pieces, destroying the last remnants of the Shadow King. When the last piece was gone, the patrones started running around the room in formation, as if looking for more enemies to destroy. When none was found, they stopped, looked at Harry, and nodded before disappearing. Harry felt relief. That was a lot of patrony. He'd never done it before, and it took a lot of power. His already tired body sagged, and he sat down in a chair by a table. I need a drink, he said to nobody. I'm afraid you are in a school. We do not have alcohol here. Xavier said as he rolled up. This man has just done the impossible. Well, that's too bad. I need to cool off after that. Harry said. You did have a long day, Xavier reminded him. May we offer you a place to sleep? Nah, my girlfriend would kill me if I didn't come home. Harry chuckled. Just give me 10 minutes and I'll be fine. Did you really destroy him? Wardrew asked, walking up to them. There was a hopeful look in her eye. As far as I can tell, Harry said, sitting back. Now that he'd caught his breath, that's when he noticed everyone was still in the hall and looking at him. What? They are in awe, it seems, of the man who has just destroyed a being of such darkness. He has before only been sent away, never even hurt. What were those stags made of? Xavier asked. Harry looked up abruptly. You could see them? Yes, we all saw them, Roro spoke up. How? Harry asked, still not understanding. They were there. How could we not? They radiated some kind of energy. It made me feel very hopeful. Ortro said with a fond smile. It's what they are. A Patronus is a manifestation of hope and light, produced by the will of those that can. Harry said evasively. He was trying hard not to give specifics or use words like cast or spell. That at least explains why it damaged the Shadow King. He was a creature of pure darkness and fear, the polar opposite of light and hope. Xavier theorized, probably correctly. Thank you, Oro said to him. Some years back he was after me. It was good to witness him finally destroyed. How did you know you could destroy him? Xavier asked. I didn't. I was bluffing, hoping he would choose to leave to his dimension. When he tried to dispel the Patronus and hurt himself, I decided to carry out my threat, Harry said with a shrug. Just then Logan appeared and handed Harry a beer. Bottoms up, he said with a smirk. Logan, Scott exclaimed. What? If a man can't enjoy a brew every now and then, he'll go nuts. You don't want me to go nuts, do you? Logan said with a wicked smile. Just for that, you are now my favorite X-Man. Harry said, clinking bottles with Logan and taking a drink. So good, he said, relaxing into his chair. Logan's disregard for the rules aside. How are you capable of so much? It's like you're casting spells or something. Xavier scoffed, but saw the look that crossed Harry's face. You do magic? He asked. So much made sense with that. Damn it. I can't memory wipe an entire school, Harry said, angry at his slip of control. He blamed the fatigue. That had to be it. Well, I suppose I could, Harry started thinking. Harry, even if you could, would you do that to children? Xavier admonished. Yeah, I suppose you're right. And it's not like you're going to out me with my magic protecting this place. Harry gave up the notion. But any of you call me a magician and I'll turn you into farm animals. Ugly ones, he threatened. What would you prefer? Xavier asked with a smile. Wizard? I'm a wizard, Harry sighed out. Hey, Logan, he suddenly asked. Yeah, Logan responded. You got plans tomorrow? Harry asked again. Not really, Logan shrugged. Why? If you want my help with your memories, you're my new drinking buddy. You're coming with me. Tonight, you look like you could use a stronger drink than this anyway. And I've got some stuff that can make an Asgardian drunk. Steve doesn't want to drink with me anymore. Harry said. Deal, Logan said happily. Just as Xavier said, Harry, looking at the chuckling kids. They will grow up one day, well-educated, and become the proper kind of functional alcoholics, just like you hope. This is a good school, right? Harry asked. Logan laughed. Scott, Roro, and Jean hid their grins. Very, Xavier said, frowning. Good, Harry said, finishing the last of his beer. He looked at Logan. Are you ready? Logan upturned his bottle and downed the other half, before putting it down. Harry just vanished both their bottles, put a hand on his shoulder, waved at the kids and dissipated while some fireworks started going off overhead, again.